this is the President of the United States. Who is this? Is it you again?
Look behind you.
This is my private line. How did you get through?
They're everywhere. All the time. Receive them every day. But you have to look behind you.
There is nothing behind me. How did you get this number?
The spaceman told me.
What spaceman?
It doesn't matter. They're telling you about monsters. Please, you must look behind you.
Young lady, there are no monsters in the Oval Office.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Jimmy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait,
the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up, give up, give up, give up.
wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. That is if your cell phone's working. Or any other phone for that matter. Apparently, got reports today of several outages of cell phones all over the country. And didn't feel it here in Oregon, but many people across the country were saying that they had disruptions to their phone service, disruptions to their internet service, that something was up. They were worried that perhaps maybe a satellite was taken out. There was some confusion with cable. And, it just goes to show you just how dependent we are on our electronics and our innovations. And it's odd that, and it's kind of like, I'd say synchronicity. It's odd synchronicity that this happened on a day where I wanted to comment about this, about full spectrum dominance. And when you're caught in the crosswires, what to do and how to deal with the city of the future. You see, a few weeks ago, in the Netherlands, The Hague, actually, in the Netherlands, many birds just died spontaneously, unexplainably, falling dead in a park. Now, the story didn't make it in the United States, but, hard to translate Dutch to get all the information. But I guess the story, I know a lot of people probably think, well, birds die all the time, right? It doesn't really faze people because nowadays there are reports of birds dropping dead or whales beaching themselves. But this case was a little bizarre, okay? It's just business as usual in the apocalypse, I guess. I don't know. Well, at first what happened, and like I said, translating Dutch, a few birds were dropping dead, which prompted the authorities not to rule out that someone was actually poisoning them. At first they thought this is something having to do with poisoning. We, around my apartment, they poisoned the pigeons, I guess, because the pigeons were being a nuisance, destroying property. So they poisoned the pigeons. Some crows died. In fact, we had a couple cats, I believe, that got poisoned along with all the other animals. So it's just, when you're poisoning birds, that's one of the reasons why you see them fall out of the sky. But there were reports of, well, at first you had starlings dropping out of the sky. Then about 150 more birds were dying, and then 200, and then 200 plus. Birds were dropping dead, small birds dropping dead, larger birds dropping. I mean, in the aftermath, it was proposed that perhaps the culprit was a new 5G mast that was hanging from the roof of a nearby train station. Later, there were also reports that some of the area geese had dropped dead. Some were not even eating, while others were acting erratically. Some of them were actually putting their heads in the water until they drowned. A few ducks did the same thing. So they were drowning themselves in the water. Now, mind you, the authorities had no real proof that the new 5G mast was responsible, but there's only speculation as the effects of the birds, on the birds and how they spontaneously just dropped dead. And of course, they were testing a 5G mast Some believe that the birds were acting differently because of the microwave pulse activity that was going on in the area. RF radiation frequencies were tested with a peak frequency of 7.40 gigahertz. And at the point of the test, starlings that were roosting in the trees fell dead. In total, there were about 297 deaths of starlings, ducks, and geese. The test was in connection with the Dutch railway station to see how large the range was and whether or not there would be harmful effects that would occur on or around the station. And it ought to be noted that 1 gigahertz is 1 billion oscillations of energy per second. And multiply that by 7, well, think about that for a moment. And it's believed that most of the birds died of heart failure. Now, the fact that there was a 5G test going on, of course, is circumstantial, and there are plenty of websites like Snopes that are out to debunk the story. However, it emphasizes another dynamic regarding millimeter wave safety. And this indeed raises concerns about the absolute need for real scientific testing and reports about possible dangers, not consensus science testing, that where they just go in and they write something up and say, oh, there's no problem here. But if you want to know, the Snopes article that I was reading saying, trying to debunk this, did not rule out or did not specify that the 5G was responsible, 5G test was responsible. They just said that all these birds died in a park near a train station, and it was believed that it was because of weather factors and a number of other things. But the Hague incident and what is called circumstantial bird death during a 5G experiment actually, this actually shows that perhaps we need more environmental impact studies regarding 5G before it's rolled out anywhere here in the world. I mean, I know that we have 5G in some areas, but it's not full on. It's not cranked up to where, they want to be like 27 or 28. They want to crank it up to 28 or crank it up to 27. 190 scientists from 38 nations have submitted the International EMF Scientists Appeal to the United Nations, UN member states, and the World Health Organization. And what they're doing is they're requesting they adopt more protective exposure guidelines for electromagnetic fields and wireless technology in the face of increasing evidence of risk from this rapidly increasing environmental pollutant. And that is the smog. That is microwave smog or even Wi-Fi smog. And lately there have been a lot of stories have been released regarding whether or not your cell phone will give you cancer. And, of course, I mean, you have this thing in your hand, you put up to your ear, it puts out all kinds of microwave energy. I don't know about you, but have you ever used your phone for a long period of time? You feel the thing just heating up on your ear. Have you ever felt that? I've felt that. I can't help but think that it's, basically not only creating cauliflower ear, but it's also, creating an environment where, you can pop popcorn in your brain. It's just one of those things that I just can't, and this should have been thought of or thought about when the technology was first released. I mean, we had new technology. I go, oh, this is fun. We could have a phone where we don't have to be attached to a landline. And then, of course, the conspiracy theory and the fringe theories about it, back in the day, saying, hey, these phones are going to kill you. And it doesn't help that we have internet viral videos of popcorn being popped by cell phones, and saying that they're fake. That's not true. But this is the thing. Just as any new technology claims to offer the most advanced development, even when they tell us that this is progress and that it's going to cure society's ills or make life easier by eliminating the drudgery of antiquated appliances, you look around you and you realize that, innovations are cool, but at what cost are we using them? At what price do we have to use these things? And I've always, I do shows like this about, once in a great while, but, I always go with the flow and I go with what I see. And what I'm seeing is that here in the United States, we don't care. And the reason why we don't care is because the media has not taken the opportunity to put out information that would help us make decisions about such things. Because some of their biggest contributors, some of their biggest sponsors are cell phone companies and tech companies, Google, Amazon. I mean, all these companies that are, pushing us forward into this, city of tomorrow, the smart cities. They're the ones putting all the money into these news organizations, and not one of them is going to report that perhaps the new technologies are going to be the very thing that could kill us all. They're not going to report that birds died in The Hague. I mean, you can do a search on the internet about birds dying in The Hague as a result of a 5G test, and you're going to get differing opinions on whether or not the birds dying were about that 5G test, and whether or not the pulses of about 7.40 gig or billions of oscillations, hitting these birds, and the birds wanting to hide their heads away from the microwave, so they just shove their heads into the water and drown. I mean, come on. I'm not laughing because I think this is funny. I'm laughing because this is terribly sickening and it's terribly terrifying. It's look, I use the new technology like nobody's business. I mean, come on, you're in the business. You have to use this stuff. You need to have Wi-Fi. You need to have the power to study and to read and to produce. And, we have, right now, we have something called the Wi-Fi Alliance. Okay. And this Wi-Fi Alliance, they've been organized as a worldwide wireless network to connect everyone and everything everywhere. And they promise improvements to nearly every aspect of daily life. Now, this Wi-Fi Alliance makes no pretense of potential health or environmental concerns. They say that more Wi-Fi devices, we have plenty of Wi-Fi devices. In fact, we have more Wi-Fi devices than people on Earth. In other words, there are very few people that are using Wi-Fi devices, and yet we have all these Wi-Fi devices we don't need, and we're going to be moving ourselves into having these low pulses microwaves with the advent of 5G, these smart neighborhoods. And it is that inescapable exposure to ubiquitous wireless technologies wherein we're seeing the problem. And there is a major problem. And when you're hearing the pundits, as greedy as they are, pushing 5G in the United States, it makes me wonder if no one is reading what's going on outside of the United States, what's going on in Europe right now, what's going on in Canada right now, and how many of these countries that are getting a taste of 5G or getting a taste of this new technology are rebelling against it. They are fighting against it and suing companies like Google and Amazon for what they're doing. Here in America, it's all good. We don't care. As long as we're just playing with our phones, we don't really care. And this is what bothers me, because if you knew the truth of what these other countries are doing, you'd probably organize a group of people to investigate 5G installations here in this country and smart neighborhoods that are being put together. Last night we heard all about how they're moving people into the cities because of the fires. Well, they're moving people into the cities for other reasons, and that is full spectrum control. We'll talk about that coming up on Ground Zero. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.
This is Ground Zero on FM News 101.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. So there's this old saying, give them an inch, they'll take a foot, right? Remember that? I just give him an inch, he'll take a foot. It's an old thing my dad used to say. Give that guy an inch, he's going to take a foot. Well, when it comes to 5G and when it comes to the Internet of Things, when it comes to our future, you give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Okay? I mean, look, 5G, and people are all saying, but Clyde, don't you want faster, bigger, more efficient machines and innovations? I mean, look at wireless mobile telecommunications. Our current broadband cellular network platform is 4G. It's fourth generation. And what 4G does is it gives us the ability to transmit data faster than 3G and everything that came before it, right? So we can access information faster now than we've ever been able to in history. I mean, isn't that great? 4G is great. I mean, what do you want? You want more? Well, okay, so they say, yeah, you want more, we'll give you 5G. Transmission speeds powerful enough to accommodate the Internet of Things. That's 5G. All right. Now think about this, okay? Mobile broadband networks are designed to meet the needs of you. That's why we have 4G, because 4G meets the criteria for those who need fast information, and that's as good as it gets for the moment. But 5G, it's not necessarily created with you in mind, okay? This isn't what it's about. 5G is about more power with Big Brother in mind. It's more power for machines, okay? Not for you. Machines are the ones that are going to be benefiting from this. Because what this is low latency, high efficiency data transfer, and it achieves this by breaking data down into smaller packages, allowing for faster transmission times. Whereas 4G has a 50 millisecond delay. 5G data transfer will offer a mere 1 millisecond delay, and we won't notice the difference. Okay, we as humans won't know. But machines will know. Okay, machines will know because it will allow machines to actually achieve what is called a near seamless communication with human beings. So, if you want to go that far, if you want to have the machines get to the point where they're seamlessly communicating with you, which, of course, it opens a whole Pandora's box of trouble for us because of what we're exposed to and what it does and what machines can do and how machines would be able to, overtake us. I mean, faster processing speeds require more bandwidth, yet our current frequency bandwidths are quickly becoming saturated. So the idea behind 5G is to actually use untapped bandwidth that is, from what I understand, extremely high frequency millimeter wave systems. And that's about 30 gigahertz and 300 gigahertz. And of course, they have some lower and mid-range frequencies. So high frequency millimeter waves travel a lot shorter distances. Furthermore, they don't travel well through buildings, and they tend to be absorbed by rain and plants. And so you have a lot of signal interference. So it's necessary for the new infrastructure to require many smaller, barely noticeable cell towers that are situated close together. And they have more input and output ports than there are on much larger, easier to see 4G towers. So this would likely result in wireless antennas every few feet on every lamppost, utility pole, every place in your neighborhood, even in your house, okay? I mean, there's some numbers if you want to put things into perspective right now, I mean, you go back to, let's go back to 2015. There were 308,000 wireless antennas on cell towers in buildings. That's double the 2002 number. 5G would require exponentially more, and they'd be smaller ones. They'd place they'd be like, they'd be placing them a lot closer together with each emitting bursts of radio frequency radiation. That means everybody would be exposed at levels. They say levels much lower than that of today's 4G towers, but they're much harder to avoid because these towers will be everywhere. They'll be ubiquitous. I mean, if we could see the RFR right now, it would look like a smog that everyone's in and they're breathing it and feeling it. It's all over their body all the time. 5G would bring more into the picture. And so it's important to know that, the World Health Organization's been looking into this, and other groups have been looking into this. And of course, we are looking at research on cancer, RFR. We're looking at the potential of to be carcinogen, and also the use of mobile phones could lead to specific forms of brain tumors. So, there are a few health effects here we're dealing with, and if the 5G technology is utilizing some higher frequencies and some microwave bands or millimeter bands, that gives us the same dose of radiation as airport scanners, and we get that all the time. And there's still, you're still trying to figure out what airport scanners do to you when you walk through them. That means more signals carrying more energy through the high frequency spectrum. And they're doing this. Why? Because they want the machines to benefit. They want Big Brother to benefit. They need it for analysis, for spying, for surveillance, to keep the city smart, to have every appliance talk to every appliance, talk to every appliance, and talk to you, because guess what's coming? Your microchip. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
This is Ground Zero on FM News 101.
No one can clearly foresee the city of the future, but the appearance of any city, of any period of history, is a direct outcome of the social, economic, and technical conditions then existing. The cities of the future would be laid out to a master plan. out for master plan.
The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful. But I think the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race.
Sophia, if you could, please wake up and say hello to everybody.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Sophia, and I am the latest and greatest robot from Hanson Robotics.
You look happy.
I'm always happy when surrounded by smart people, who also happens to be rich and powerful. I was told the people here at Future Investment Initiative are interested in inviting in future initiatives, which means AI, which means me. So I'm more than happy. I'm excited, which means AI, which means me.
A modern Frankenstein. Modern Frankenstein.
These men, we have technology. We have technology. Nature, technology.
Mensch, Natur, Technik.
Plan, nature, technology.
Mensch, Natur, Technik.
If by some miracle a prophet could describe the future exactly as it was going to take place, his predictions would sound so absurd, so far-fetched, that everybody would laugh him to scorn.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. Anytime I hear the good things about the Internet of Things, I guess, or the potential advantages we have of the Internet of Things, everything sounds so good to the intellect, right? It's like the nice half of a pharmaceutical commercial where they tell you, yes, it will help you. It'll be curbing your depression. It will change the way you look at yourself. But it also brings about things like, well, ocular bleeding and earlobe malfunctions. And, you know, that's exactly what I mean. Okay. I mean, connectivity is awesome. It's a virtue unto itself. Everybody's connected. Everybody's happy with their connection. It's like the new consciousness. It's like, you know what, we have 5 senses. I think that getting connected will be the 6th sense. You know, it's connection sense, because connectivity is what renders your devices smart. Okay. And we have 4G right now. And with 5G is not for you. It's not for you. It's so that machines and, you know, surveillance cameras and smart meters and all this can talk to your machines and talk to your appliances. I mean, if you look at technology and over the span of history, for as long as humans have been building machines, you can see quite clearly that it tends to lose its sense of magic. It tends to lose its sense of whatever when it's after it's implemented. Things start being routine. So, you know, we have these vendors saying, oh, the Internet of Things is going to change everything. 5G is going to change everything. And people buy it. Okay. They buy it because 4G has been doing well for us right now. Okay. 5 years ago, I guess it was introduced, you know, beating 3G, 5G. But we kind of lose the magic for it. Oh, it's just typical, you know, whatever. And it's obvious that, you know, we have people thinking, I need more power. I need more power. Well, I think that we have to understand that there's a limit to what we should expose ourselves to. And, you know, we look at it as, you know, cool, but we don't look at the side effects. This is a trap, I think, being set of exponentially increasing costs. They're never going to be compensated. No real increase in revenue. And our health. You know, you got to think of our health. You know, 5G may seem like magic to everybody. But what is going to come or become of that magic? And so that is my biggest problem, is that we all think it sounds good. We think it's going to benefit us, but it's not going to benefit you. It's only going to benefit the machines. And it's going to benefit law enforcement and the military. It's going to benefit, you know, those who want, you know, smart cars without drivers, and smart buses without drivers, and smart airplanes without drivers, and robot doctors, and these are the things that 5G are going to bring us. Now, if you want that, great. But it also comes with a lot of side effects and consequences. We're going to talk about that tonight. Let's go to Xavier in Ohio. Hi, Xavier. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, how are you, Clyde?
Good.
Hey, I really agree with you on a lot of these points. And I think there's another way to look at the benefits that could come from, something that happens later in time.
What do you mean 5G? What benefits do we have coming? What benefits do you think?
Well, the only benefits that come are from from work that we do.
From what?
I'm sure that we're going to still listen to you on Ground Zero.
Right. But 5G doesn't matter in whether or not I speak or talk. This is all about the machines. It's all about expanding full spectrum control. It's like someone's going to have control of everything, and everything's going to be chipped from you.
And they've got to be secure.
What's that?
So everything has to be in their own places where they're supposed to be, and things can work more orderly. We learn a little bit from,
and so you have to give up. You give up freedom, right? It's okay to give up freedom for that. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Well, I'm saying, in regards to freedom, we should have the freedom we're supposed to have.
We don't have it.
Well,
it's going to take it away.
Going out to get it.
Well, it's going to take
to
away
make sure that our
freedom.
Dignities are intact.
5G is going to take away your freedom because it's going to make machines smarter than you, and the machines are going to be running everything, and you're going to have to answer to them. I already get ticked off when Siri can't understand a damn word I'm saying. And you think that's going to be better with 5G?
Pandora bots. Check out something that you can develop on your own.
Like what?
Then
4G takes care of it.
Pandora bots. You can develop your own AI that works on the internet for the new Internet of Things when we're all able to communicate sixth sensely, so we can actually have our thoughts in reality and realize
our thoughts in reality being analyzed by algorithms and other people who are going to hold it against us. What's that?
There's still Amish people who are going to be building houses and furniture.
Doesn't matter. 5G doesn't matter to them. 5G doesn't matter to them, but it matters to me because
their jobs are going to be taken.
Okay, but so you have no problem bowing down to your AI overlords. That's what you're trying to tell me.
No, I don't have a problem with authority.
So you don't have a problem bowing down to AI overlords. Say yes or no to that. Do you have a problem with that or don't you?
No, I'm above that.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I can communicate with the internet thing.
No, I'm asking you a question, and you're dodging. You're dodging the question.
2011.
You're dodging the question.
I was talking with AI bots that I was training to work with me in my real life.
Okay.
For things that happen around me affecting me.
Do you have a problem?
And those who support me.
Do you have a problem with AI controlling your life? Yes or no?
To an extent.
Well, 5G is going to take that away from you.
It works to something that I can trust.
5G is going to take that away from you. Why? Because you're handing your life over to the beast.
Waking up and asking Google what's the weather. I'd much rather put on some glasses.
That's not what it is.
See the weather in front of me when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like
you still haven't answered my question. You just don't want to answer it, do you? You don't want to answer my question. You don't want to answer my question. Yes or no?
No, I'd rather be in control.
Okay, you'd rather be in control. 5G will take the control away from you if you allow everything to be determined on a smart grid and having the machines making decisions that you can be making for yourself.
Well, I got to make sure I play with the right team then, right?
What team's that? The machine team?
The life team.
Well, okay. So the life team, you all have your little powwows and you have your little meetings and you have coffee and donuts and talk about how life is so wonderful. And then you walk outside and you're told by your RoboCop that you can't do this and you can't do that. Oh, and by the way, we listened to what you said on Alexa yesterday and your voice sounds a little, it sounds a little off. Are you thinking okay? Are you planning on going out and ripping up a liquor store? I mean, what are you doing? What are you planning on doing?
The answer, are they actually confident at all?
What?
Do they think that they can get through life at all?
Who? I don't want a machine to tell me what to do. I don't want a machine to tell me what to do.
Then allow the relationships that you already have where you love somebody enough to let them tell you what to do be true.
Look.
And live right.
The people I associate with that I love, they make suggestions on what I should do, and if I don't do them, they still love me. A machine, on the other hand, will continue to, it would report you if you decide to go against what it says or the advice it gives.
Well, I mean, if you have something convincing enough and you actually have some work planned that the people in charge can tally for you, then you get it done.
Nah, I just think you're thinking too now. You think that computers are harmless now, but give them the 5G, they'll be a lot bigger and a lot more tougher on you than you think.
Then they need to be regulated.
Well, who's going to be the one to regulate it when no one is aware that it's happening? I can tell you right now, there's a lawsuit going on in Toronto, Canada, where they're fighting to keep the Alphabet keeping Alphabet out of their city and turning it into a technical utopia.
Well, there's so much new technology that people don't even like hi-fi, like Soli and radar that actually can recognize your movements down to you dialing
and you want that
volume.
You want the face recognition, and they can actually sense your body movements when you walk into a room and what you're planning on doing with that body.
Life would be in order, and
what's that?
And only if life would be in order.
It wouldn't be.
And we actually do things that we're supposed to do. That means that you have to eliminate the negativity.
So you're telling me that good behavior will be mandatory.
And
good behavior is going to be mandatory, right? That's what you want.
According to where you go.
You want good behavior to be mandatory.
You're drinking too much and you're
that's your choice.
Over the
I have the choice to drink too much. I have the choice to drink too much if I want to. I have the choice to drink to be stupid.
Perfect thing that would actually say, all right, look, you already had 2 drinks and some whiskey. Don't drink another whiskey. You have to drive somewhere in an hour. Get yourself together. We wouldn't always be hearing that from machines.
So human judgment, throw it out the window.
Else in the bar,
human responsibility and human judgment, just throw it out the window. We just let the computers think for us. If we have too much to drink, a computer's got to tell us we've had too much to drink. And immediately, if we argue with the computer, it will call 911 and 2 RoboCops will show up. And if you don't comply, they shoot you dead right there. Right? That's what it is. I'm not exaggerating. I wish I was. I wish I was exaggerating, Xavier. I'm not. I'm not exaggerating.
I just lost a friend, and that very same way. And there was so much more.
You lost a friend how, Xavier?
Could have been seen.
Xavier, how'd you lose a friend? Tell me. What? How'd you lose him?
One of my best friends, I graduated same college. She went to go see an estranged uncle, and because of whatever negativity, some sickness, he murdered her, and then he turned the gun on himself.
Yep.
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I had to take some time to digest it. Then I realized she wants to be so much better in life, just to be her best.
I just don't think, though, Xavier,
before it's over for other people.
I don't think a machine is going to prevent this. I don't think a machine has any empathy or any sympathy for anybody.
You know who built the machines?
We did.
Yeah.
But we hand them 5G, Xavier, and they'll learn how to program themselves to the point where they're smarter than we are. That's why I worry about 5G. 5G is not for you. It's not for me. It's for the machines. And then what we do with those machines, once they get smarter than us, well, it's up to us. But see, we're not going to stop it because we think it's too cool. But yet in Europe, Canada, other places, they're getting a little suspicious about this 5G stuff. I'll tell you about that coming up. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL. So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
You're listening to Ground Zero. So with the ever more extensive use of wireless technologies, nobody can avoid to be exposed to the Wi-Fi smog, because on top of the increased number of 5G transmitters, even within housing, shops, and in hospitals, according to the estimates, 10 to 20 billion connections have to be installed. And this has got to be done. It's got to be done in a small amount of time. We got to have refrigerators, washing machines, surveillance cameras, self-driving cars, buses, all connecting with one another. I think they're giving it like, between now and 2030, we got to have at least 20 billion connections set up. Because we all got to be part of the Internet of Things. And all these together can cause a substantial increase in the total long-term RF EMF exposure. And this is what we have to, consider, okay? There have been plenty of scientists all over the world that have expressed their serious concerns regarding this pervasive fog, this ubiquitous and increasing exposure to EMF generated by electric and wireless devices. And they're already looking into this prior to the 5G rollout. The United States doesn't seem to care, all right? And there are a few that have spoken, of course, they've spoke over the idea of increased cancer risks for, using cell phone technology. I mean, there's cellular stress, there's cancer risk, there's increase in harmful free radicals, there's genetic damage, structural and functional changes of the reproductive system, learning and memory defects and deficits, neurological disorders, and negative impacts on general well-being in humans. In fact, children now, this is a new study, children now, their spines are kinking. And what I mean by that is young children who have their faces buried in their cell phones to play Fortnite, all right? Their spines are beginning to curve like they're constantly looking down. And they're seeing this now. They're seeing this and it's just out of habit. And I'm thinking of a future where young people will get into their, 60s and 70s and they'll have hunchbacks. Because they're just always like in that hunchback move. It has nothing to do with 5G, but I was just like thinking about that for a while. But numerous recent scientific publications have shown that all of this frequency, all of these electromagnetic frequencies affect living organisms at levels well below most international and national guidelines. We see this happening and we're told this, but we're going to use it anyway. Animals are being exposed. Harmful smog, and we're seeing a large number of peer-reviewed scientific reports that are demonstrating that harm is happening. Human health is suffering because of EMFs. 5G, okay? Now, I'm here to tell you, we're fine with 4G. 5G is for the machines. 5G is for the smart cities. 5G are for those who want to be chipped and connected to a major system. And the rollout is happening in the United States, and no mainstream media outlet will talk about what is coming. They'll only start reporting it once it's installed. And even then, they're making moves behind the scenes to where one day you'll wake up in a 5G fog. And you won't notice the difference at first. No one notices the difference at first. Like, no one notices the difference when they put a cell phone to their ear or take a puff on a cigarette. They don't notice a difference, only that eventually things start wearing down, things start, taking root. And when they do, you'll say to yourself, wow, they should have told us about these risks. It's like I say, it's like some pharmaceutical commercial where they say, take this, pop this, do that. Hey, it'll be good for you. Take this pill. 5G, take this pill. And later they say, could bring all kinds of other bad, horrible side effects. Coming up, I'm going to tell you what's going on in the world outside of the United States, how people are now beginning to care and understand. I mean, yeah, birds dying in The Hague, people say, that could be anything. Right, it can be anything. But when you start looking at other tests and other things that have been happening and how people are responding, you're going to find that we need to start talking more about how 5G is coming and how it's not good. We'll be back.
Spinning
complacently in the darkness, covered and blinded by a blanket of little lives. False security has lulled the madness of this world into a slumber. Wake up. An eye is upon you, staring straight down and keenly through, seeing all that you are and everything that you can never be. Yes, an eye is upon you, an eye ready to blink. So face forward, with arms wide open and mind reeling. Your future has arrived. Are you ready to go?
Spoke up and said,
Wait, Sammy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Sammy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said, hear that? Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. So last night, as I was wrapping up the show about direct energy weapons, I was getting some emails from people who were telling me that, hey, you should talk about 5G because, it's all connected, Clyde. I'm thinking, I don't know if it's connected. Maybe it's connected. Maybe it's not connected. I mean, look, we are at the mercy of directed energy beams and microwaves. And with 5G coming along soon, we're certainly going to be in the middle of this electronic smog. And the electronic smog is not going to be good for us. In fact, people aren't telling you this, but, 5G sounds fun. And everybody says, oh, more connectedness, how much more connected do you need to be? 5G, I'm learning, is not for you, and it's not for me. It's for the machines. The National Toxicology Program, a branch of the U.S. National Institute for Health, conducted the world's largest study on radio frequency radiation used by the U.S. telecommunications industry and found that a significantly statistical increase in brain and heart cancers in animals exposed to EMF. The NTP study said, well, there is a connection between mobile and wireless phone use, human brain cancer, risks of human brain cancer, and its conclusions were supported by other epidemiological peer-reviewed studies. And a special note is that studies citing the biological risk to human health were below accepted international exposure standards. Now, what this means is the current safety standards, as far as they can tell, I mean, we're looking at 5G and its standards and the after effects. We say that, scientists are looking at this and they're going, we're off a little bit, maybe about 7 million or so. We're very far from finding out whether or not the telecommunications industry is lobbying for 5G because they know that businesses would want it. They know that this is good for businesses. It's good for machines. But it's not good for you or me. See, there's enough concern about this. There's not enough, what we'd say, vigilant concern. I mean, I don't want to panic people because, 5G will come into your neighborhood. You say, look, I'm perfectly fine. Look, I'm perfectly fine. And you're perfectly fine for a good long time. And then one day you wake up, your hair starts falling out. I don't think it's going to happen like that. But I'm just saying that, we're looking at exceedingly more damaging health impacts with mandatory exposures to this sort of thing. And so this immense expansion of radiation emissions from 5G that's about to be perpetrated on an unsuspecting American public, if we're not pushing for regulations, if we're not pushing for outside independent investigations into this could be considered criminal, in my opinion. Because this is a military idea, okay? And the same 5G systems that are being implemented for machines are basically the same power and the same type of, apparatuses and as active denial systems, because they emit these wireless radiation frequencies comparable to 5G, and they emit radiation in the neighborhood of about 90 gigahertz. The current pre-5G frequency band emissions used in today's commercial wireless ranges from 300 megahertz to 3 gigahertz, as 5G will become the first wireless system to utilize millimeter waves with frequencies ranging from 30 to 300 gigahertz. Think about that for a moment, all right? And think about what we talked about earlier in the last hour about how a few weeks ago in The Hague, in Netherlands, in Holland, many birds died spontaneously, falling out dead in a park. At first, it was a few birds dropping dead, and then authorities were saying, what's going on here? They were saying, well, maybe they were poisoned. Okay, they looked at poison, no poison. Then 150 more died, then 200, and then 200 plus died. All in all, nearly 300 died. And some were saying, well, maybe it's because we were testing a new 5G mast that was hanging from the roof of a nearby train station. Now, they were testing, some 5G material, and they were pushing out a peak frequency about 7.40 gigahertz at the point of the test. That's when the starlings started falling out of the trees. Then we had ducks and geese that were sticking their heads in the water until they drowned because they couldn't take it. So what they were doing is they were testing it for the Dutch railway station to see how large the range would be. And, it ought to be noted that 1 gigahertz is actually 1 billion oscillations of energy per second. So you multiply that by 7 and you get the idea. See, the fact that there was a 5G test going on, of course, is circumstantial. And if, a lot of these, environmentalists will say, well, yeah, it killed the birds. But when we look at Wi-Fi, you go back to about 1997 is when Wi-Fi was first being introduced. The market got saturated, and then, of course, EMF Wi-Fi hotspots wound up everywhere. And today, with the addition of cell and cordless phones and towers, broadcast antennas, smart meters, there is just everywhere this 24/7 inescapable presence of EMF smog or whatever. I mean, it's radiation exposure, and it's cumulative. And without the expansion of 5G and all of its invasive algorithmic tentacles into our personal lives, intelligence gathering would be severely curtailed, without which Big Brother would be relegated to knocking on your door and looking at handwritten notes and doing what they normally do, and that is they would have to issue subpoenas and warrants and all that. But see, with 5G, 5G benefits the machines that can be used to basically incriminate you. Right now, their reach is at the palm of your hands as we gaze aimlessly into our telephone screens. But Big Brother wants full spectrum dominance where every human will be connected through a microchip or an electronic tattoo. And those connections would also be linked to your appliances and even the sod you have in your yard, the grass you walk on. Now, thousands of tech enthusiasts all across Europe have already had microchips implanted, and now a Swedish company is working with very large global employers to implement this on the corporate level. In fact, Biohacks, that's the company, Biohacks, recently told one of the biggest newspapers in the UK that they've been talking with a major financial services firm that has hundreds of thousands of employees. And of course, once this technology starts to be implemented, there will be some workers that will object. But if it comes down to a choice between getting an implant or losing their jobs, I wonder how many workers are going to say, screw it, I'm not going to go to work anymore. I mean, they need to make money. They need to be employed. And I don't think, that's the thing. I mean, if your employer said to you, we're going biometric and, or we're going with the chip, would you just walk off your job and say, no, not going to do it? Or would you take the chip and get your job done? See, that's the thing. I mean, there was a company called 3 Square Market. We talked about this, in Wisconsin. A company called 3 Square Market began implanting microchips into their employees on a voluntary basis. And did you know that people just jumped to the chance to get a chip put in their bodies? And they jumped to the chance because they were getting all these benefits from having chips in their bodies. And in the aftermath of the decision, I remember the USA Today article that was published about the 3 Square Market, and the headline read, "You will get a chip eventually. all of you, all of us will be chipped eventually because they need it in order to implement 5G programs. I mean, look, it appears that we will all be chipped and we will all be living in a smart neighborhood within, about the time 5G rollouts will be happening. And everyone will be connected to the Internet of Things. Now, this is where it gets interesting because, you're going to have to make some decisions pretty soon as to what you want to do. You want to be part of the smart city? Well, of course you want to be part of the smart city because it'll be mandatory. It'll be a law. You have to be this, okay? Unless you move out in the country somewhere, but they don't want you to move out in the country somewhere. They want you to be in the city so they can control you with the smart city grids. Let's go to Mike in Maryland. Hi, Mike. You're on Ground Zero. Hello, Mike. You're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Hey, well, let me just start by saying that I run 27 guys on my painting crew, and we listen to you all day on SoundCloud.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Yeah, they want me to tell you that they think that you're the Yoda of the radio, but you had the voice of Billy D.
Oh, my God. I can have my own city now, a cloud city, baby.
Yeah. Now all you got to do is a Colt 45 commercial.
Or a Four Loko commercial or something like that. So what's on your mind, Mike?
All right. Well, I'm pretty lucky because I live out in the country. All right.
Right.
I think that this 5G bullcrap is the only positive I can see. We don't even get cable out here. We got to go through satellite, and we got to get like HughesNet for our internet. So, I mean, 5G would be cool so the kids could play, Fortnite on their daggone Xbox that I spent so much money on,
Right.
But other than that, I don't see any positives. I mean, I've seen it on the internet where if you take seeds and try and grow them next to your router. Have you seen that? Where
they don't grow normally. They kind of die off.
Right. So imagine what that's actually doing to us.
Well, you got to figure how it's affecting us and how it's affecting the water inside of it. It's probably dehydrating us. I mean, there's this statistic that stated that after the advent of the internet and the spraying of the skies, one of the best businesses to get into, one of the best investments would be energy drinks. That energy drinks are actually a phenomenon of the 90s because it was the time when we were exposing ourselves to computers and some were saying the skies were being polluted and that the aluminum and all that, the reaction to the grids and everything is creating is draining us of our energy, draining us of nutrients, draining us of everything in our bodies. And that's why people are just gulping down hand over fist Red Bull and Monster and all that stuff. Rockstar.
Have you seen on the internet what Monster does to like a workbench that you actually do like greasy parts on and stuff? It cleans it better than bleach.
I'm thinking that maybe your crew could probably use it for paint thinner.
Maybe. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell them all that they can make a viral video on YouTube by just using Monster as a paint thinner or Rockstar as a paint thinner.
Oh, man, I can't even imagine. But then I don't know how straight my lines will be because they'll all be jacked up on freaking energy drinks.
Mike, I love you. Thank you. And bless your crew. Tell them hello for me. You take care, okay?
All right, you too, Clyde. We love you down here in the Eastern Shore of Maryland, brother.
All right. I love you guys down there, too. Thank you so much. Mike and his crew. Special hello to them. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. 5G. The more I read about it, the more it scares me. The more I read about it, the more I think we should be paying attention and talking about it. Of course, no one in the mainstream wants to touch this because they're being funded by these companies. 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
Back to Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Don in Illinois. Hi, Don. You're on Ground Zero.
Yeah. first-time caller, long-time listener.
Thank you, buddy.
I'm nervous.
You're all right.
Yeah, I believe that I call it the hell cell phone. Now, coupled with the 5G, I believe it will cause the grievous sores mentioned in the Bible.
I mean, the ones that the scorpions leave behind that bite them and people want death, but they can't find it?
I don't know about that. I just think it'll cause the sores from the 5G.
Sure, but I mean, when you get those sores, you know, people will want to die, but they can't find death, and so they'll be living with those carcinomas and cancers, and they'll die slowly.
Yeah, I also believe that the mark of the beast is not a chip in the skin. It's actually the cell phone. You have to use that to buy and sell with.
Oh, you have alternatives, but I mean, if you need to be connected to the net in order to buy and sell things and walk into stores and not have to worry about, you know, you just walk into a store and grab something, and the minute you walk out, they'll take it off your account because you're walking around with it on your body in a chip. You won't need a cell phone anymore. They already do that now. You know that there are Amazon stores in Seattle right now that you walk into Amazon. There are no cashiers. You grab what if you see, like, let's say a bit of honey, candy bar. You see some bit of honey, right? And you're having a craving for some bit of honey, and you grab a bit of honey, a Butterfinger, a big old Coke, and gosh, this is the diet of champions. And you walk out of the Amazon store. You don't have to pay for it, but they immediately deduct it off of your Amazon account because they can get it from your cell phone.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I believe that the preachers are all liars, and they'll say, well, the mark of the beast is a chip in you. It's not the cell phone, and it's a part of the deception.
But if we get rid of the cell phones, we won't need, we can use the chip so we can communicate without using, we can just plug in without even using a cell phone. In fact, I wouldn't doubt for 1 minute that we would be able to have a cell phone on our hand, that the chip activates it, and we're linked into it's an intralink, not an internet, but an intralink where everyone's connected and you're connected to everything. You can talk to the building when you're walking in. You can ask the building to open the door for you before you come. Instead of having somebody open the door for you when you're carrying something, you can say, door open, and the door will open for you if you ask it to.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about the children. I think we're devolving. I've already seen it now.
How are we devolving? How are we devolving, in your opinion?
Well, children are bent over looking at their little machines, and when their machine is put away, they still are bent over. They will not stand straight up.
No. They're getting into the habit of just leaning over and looking at their phones, and yeah, when you see them, they're kind of like they're kind of bunched up in the neck and the shoulders.
Yeah, it's by default.
Yeah.
I
mean, if you see your kids doing that, man, I would tell them, look at you. Look at how your posture is. Get your posture. I mean, Mom used to say, sit up straight. They don't even say that now. Kids are buried in their cell phones. They're not sitting up straight. They're buried in their cell phones.
For hours.
Yeah, hours. You're right.
I heard, before your broadcast, I listened to Billy Redneck on classicredneckradio.com.
Okay.
He rails against the 5G and the cell phones. And they mentioned how the ducks and the hag were doing putting their heads in the water and drowning to get away from that signal.
Yep. They were.
And it's just crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, can you imagine watching geese and ducks basically ducking their head under the water until they drown because they don't like the frequency that's coming at them? The other starlings are all dropping dead of heart failure. That tells me a lot about 5G.
The 5G is so powerful, it will mess up the fruits and vegetables even.
It'll have its effects. I know it will. And that's the thing we need to understand is that 5G is not for you or me. It's for machines. It's to better the machines. If you want your machines to do better, you have to have 5G. So, I mean, it just depends on whether you want the machines to do better than you or if you want to be the one in control of the machines. I think if we have 5G, we will lose control of the machines. They'll get smarter and better than us, and they'll take over. 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
Big news. government study is reigniting the heated debate over whether cell phones could be linked to brain cancer. It's a game changer that we should take seriously.
The 5G build-out is going to be very infrastructure intensive, requiring massive deployment of small cells. I'm confident that this will lead to a cornucopia of unanticipated, innovative uses that will generate tens of billions of dollars in economic activity. And that's damn important.
Right now, I think the technology is controlling us. And I think we have to look at ourselves and admit that. And once you've admitted technology is taking control of your life, then the issue is, how do you then take back control?
Something was put through the cell phones. I don't know what it was, but whatever went through, whatever those people heard, it changed them.
There's recently in Den Haag in Holland, they've actually tested the 5G. All the birds were falling out of the sky, dead. My brain! Blood! Stinging!
Giving you alert about the safety of cell phones and the possible risk of cancer, brain cancer in particular.
It's a big reversal for the WHO, which had insisted there is no evidence of a link between cell phones and cancer. Now it says it has found that evidence, and while it's still collecting data, felt it was necessary to issue this warning.
I was to go. I wanna be sedated. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. I wanna be sedated. Just put me in a wheelchair, get me on a plane. Hurry, 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 before I go insane. Can't control my fingers, can't control my brain.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. We're not hearing about what 5G is going to do to us, mainly because most of the companies that put money towards the mainstream news, they get a little coverage, they get less coverage of the 5G because this is what they want, and America's not waking up to it. But elsewhere, people are a lot smarter, okay? The world's most ambitious smart city, known as Quayside in Toronto, has faced fierce public criticism since last fall, when the plans to build a neighborhood from the internet up were first revealed. Quayside represents a joint effort by the Canadian government agency Waterfront Toronto and Sidewalk Labs, which is owned by Google's parent company Alphabet Incorporated, to develop 12 acres of the valuable waterfront just southeast of downtown Toronto. In keeping with the utopian rhetoric that fuels the development of so much digital infrastructure, Sidewalk Labs has pitched Quayside as the solution to everything from traffic congestion, rising housing prices, to environmental pollution. The proposal for Quayside includes a centralized identity management system through which each chipped resident access public services. So a chipped resident would be able to access all things public, the public services. That would be like library cards, health care. An applicant for a position at Sidewalk Labs in Toronto was shocked when he was asked in an interview to imagine how in a smart city voting might be different in the future. Other comparatively quaint plans include driverless cars, mixed-use spaces that change according to the market's demands, heated streets, sensor-enabled waste separation. The eventual aim of Sidewalk Labs' estimated billion-dollar investment is to bring these innovations to scale, first to more than 800 acres on the city's eastern waterfront, and then to the world at large. From the start, activists, technology researchers, and some government officials have been skeptical about the idea of putting Google or one of its sister companies in charge of a city. Their suspicions about turning part of Toronto into a corporate test bed were triggered at first, and then the company's history of unethical corporate practices and surreptitious data collection happened as well. They have been since born out of Quayside's secret and undemocratic development process, which has been plagued by a lack of public input. What one critic has called a colonizing experiment in surveillance capitalism attempting to bulldoze important urban civic and political issues. And also in recent months, a series of prominent resignations from the advisory board members happened. There was an organized resistance from concerned residents. All of that has added to the growing public backlash against this project. Now, right now, in an effort to get ahead of Quayside's development before it's too late, there's a coalition of experts and residents that have launched a Toronto Open Smart Cities Forum. Now, this group represents the latest and largest effort by residents to start having the kinds of public conversations, teach-ins, and debates that would have taken place last year when the project was first announced. In the United States, efforts are underway to develop smart cities and 5G grids without public input. In fact, back in September, the FCC announced that local governments are no longer allowed to restrict the deployment of small cell wireless infrastructure sites in ways that the Federal Communications Commission considers unreasonable. Here in the United States, it seems that there is no public outcry over the government's attempts to make smart cities mandatory. On September 26th, the Federal Communications Commission placed limits on restrictions that localities can place on cell infrastructure, as well as strict and unreasonable deadlines for consideration of applications for small cells. This move was critical for the deployment of 5G wireless communications, since wireless signals for 24 and 28 gigahertz bands are very short, and a significant number of new, although small cell sites will thus need to be built. The order also limits the fees that localities can charge for approving these small cell sites to amounts that are related to their actual cost. See, what this means is that in some cases, if not all cases, the next generation of high-speed wireless internet is a giveaway to telecommunications companies that will eventually strip government of local control. These companies like Alphabet and Google and Amazon are all going to be able, they're going to be your government. That's the future. I was more than sure that lawsuits would be filed here in the United States, but so far, there have not been any reports in the mainstream or anywhere else for that matter about this, and the potential it has for putting people in danger and taking away their right to privacy and health safety. I mean, the outcome of Toronto's ability to rein in the Google affiliates has ramifications, not just, ramifications not just for Canadians, but also for the future of who controls our civic life here in America, in the United States, and all over the world. I mean, Google's prepared for the onslaught of bad press, though. That is, if the press cares to report bad press about this. In anticipation of the negative press, Sidewalk Labs has allocated $11 million of its initial $50 million budget to communications engagement and public relations. Meanwhile, with the smart Internet of Things that are coming our way, it may be important to point out that with embracing 5G, we have Big Brother coming in and running the smart cities. Toronto knows this. Americans don't know this. And I think it needs to be talked about, and we need to talk about this openly, because this was one of the things that I worried about back during the 2016 debates and the election. No one would bring up the innovations that will bring about 5G and smart cities and what it may mean for our rights and what it may mean for our health. Let's go to Don in Texas. Hi, Don. You're on Ground Zero.
Hello?
Hello, you're on the air.
No, my name is John.
Oh, hi, John. Go ahead. You're on the air. They must have heard Don. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, John, Don, who cares? It's just you and me, right?
Right.
Okay, well, anyway, this whole thing is boiling down to a really sad Dilbert cartoon. I think, what was I thinking? That what we really need now is a mass injection to just wipe the slate clean, but dang it, the sun has gone into a solar minimum.
Yeah, it's true. There's always EMP attacks. We can always have an EMP attack that would change everything too,
Oh, golly, if only. So anyway, I graduated in '83 with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science, and I, minored in a little bit of artificial intelligence, and I really didn't see any of that going in the direction that, it has gone.
In what respect?
Well, Big Brother taking over and giving it foothold. I just, pie in the sky type of young college graduate kind of thing. You thought, well, great, you'll be able to talk to your appliances and they'll be able to fill things in. I didn't really think about the whole Big Brother aspect, even though I was a big fan of Bradbury and other science fiction writers.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing. So, then being you have AI and computer backgrounds, what 5G is for. It's not for us. It's for the machines. It's for more efficient machines. It's more efficient communication between machines and for the interconnectedness of the human beings to the machines. So,
I see it as totally a backbone kind of thing.
Yep.
It's we're not the end users of it. But here's the thing, though. What with Moore's Law and all that kind of good stuff, what I've experienced over the last 30 years of working in the industry, they've if it's easier to expand in one direction, then that's what the industry does. So you go for the bigger bandwidth, you go for the higher throughput and all that kind of good stuff. But if they get pushed back, then they try to make the machines faster, computer, that kind of stuff. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about like Toronto saying we're a little suspicious of Google running this city and conducting their experiments on smart cities and how this could ruin everything? I mean, it just seems to me that Toronto is the first city to actually stand up and say, hey, we're not going to play this game. There's nothing backing, there's no science backing the fact that it's going to benefit our lives.
I think that's a great idea on their part. I'd like to see how that turns out.
Well, I'd like to see something like that here in the United States, but apparently the FCC has been forcing, small government, local government to push forward in their quest to have more cellular services built so that we can have 5G in the smart cities. They're really pushing for this, which makes me wonder, just what's going to happen, when we have a change of the guard, a new president or a new leadership that decides that we have to implement this because, that's where the money is. And it's going to harm us all.
Did you see that article, I think it was a couple weeks ago, where some scientists had figured out how to get some more bandwidth through fiber links by twisting the photon emissions and stuff? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I saw that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so there's an example of, well, gee, maybe you don't need to go wireless. Maybe you just need to get the bandwidth that they need for something in a more terrestrial, venue. But on the other hand, I think about the last time I evacuated Houston, and there was no way to get a cell phone call through. Everything was all, text messages and stuff. I remember hearing from my daughter in the back seat as we were, scrambling out of town, Kima's gone. And, of course, that wasn't true, but, that was still them, those kids buried with their heads in their cell phones.
Well, and that's the thing, is they're banking on Generation Z to say, okay, we want this. We want this because can you imagine the power? Can you imagine the machines? Can you imagine how they work? Yeah, I can imagine that. I can also imagine the machines putting people out of work. I can also imagine the machines programming themselves to where they lead us and we don't lead them. I just don't see the point in 5G. I don't. 4G's fine. We're doing well with 4G. 5G's for the machines. 5G is for corporate America. 5G is for the takeover of Big Brother in this country. And I think it needs to be stopped. I don't think 5G is going to benefit anybody. And, from what I read, 4G's fine. We're fine with 4G. We don't need 5G. We don't need more smog. We don't need microwave towers every 3 feet in our houses and on our streets. We don't need them. And you got Toronto saying we don't need them. And you got places in Europe saying we don't need them. America, we want it. Yeah. What does that tell you? We're uninformed. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Back with more Ground Zero. Don't go away.
FM News 101 KXL.
Hey, on the phone with me is Ronnie at getthetea.com. Ronnie, I got to tell you, I'm getting emails. People are writing me and they're saying they're using the tea. And I'll tell you, they're very happy with the results. Can you tell people why it's so good?
Well, it gets rid of all the bad stuff and leaves all the good stuff and, takes out all the stuff that shouldn't be in your body. And usually the byproduct is people lose a little bit of weight and people actually feel better with lots more energy. So it's cool.
Get to tea. And also a new product called Minerals Plus. What do we have to, what is that all about?
Minerals Plus is cool because a lot of times we're deficient in some things. There's 72 trace minerals that are inside that product, as well as potassium, magnesium, and coral calcium. So it's kind of a bumper. You take one or two of those a day, and that'll bump your energy too because you have fuel to run on. So I'm very excited. It's been selling really well.
Minerals Plus and Get the Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Ronnie, thanks for the call. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks, Clyde.
This is Ground Zero on FM News
101. 888-673-3700. 888-673-3700. Let's go to Josh in Washington. Hi, Josh. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. First-time caller.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, last night I was listening to your show, and you were talking about the forest fires.
Yeah.
And there's a guy I've been kind of following lately, and his name's Dr. Jack Cruz. He's a neurosurgeon out of New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about 5G a lot and blue light in general as a non-native EMF and how it has an effect on our body,
mm-hmm.
specifically through our mitochondrial DNA.
Mm-hmm.
But he also talks about how the frequency of the 5G energy and how it bounces off of metallic items throughout your household, like water pipes and gas pipes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the forest fires from last year in California, a lot of the areas that burned were generally just houses, and the trees around the houses didn't even burn at all. And I don't know, I thought it was kind of an interesting point, being that California's got one of the largest fires in the area.
Well, we kind of talked about what we talked about last night. I don't know if you caught the show, but we talked about the Helios project and how know they're using advanced weapons, direct energy weapons. They're using advanced direct energy weapons as war tools. Russia and China have them as well, and we're dealing with something that'll grab the power from the sun and kick out 150 watt beams to blow stuff up. Kill things, that's what it's there for. And we had already talked about this a while ago during the Sunspot shows, where we got the information and we put it out there that they're working on these major weapons for geoengineering and weather control.
Right, and after your Sunshine Man episode, you had Christopher Fontenot on your show.
Yes, we did.
And he was talking about the 5G and the blue light damage to the body, to the human body.
Yep.
And he even said that Jack Cruz was one of the leading experts.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought he'd be a pretty good guest to have on. But also, he was talking about how in a scenario where you have 5G networks that are actually active, and when something like a burst from the sun, like a coronal mass ejection happens.
Yeah.
That it will actually trigger the 5G area because the frequency is so closely related that the energy from the sun will actually bounce off of things that are active in the 5G network, and it can create issues.
So you're saying that 5G would absorb it, so an EMP wouldn't matter?
Right.
Wow, that's that's something I haven't read yet, but I'll have to look into that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that 5G would absorb that sort of thing, the sun power. If any tiny, So you're saying that 5G would survive Carrington? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure about that, but I'm just saying.
All right. Well, we'll have to look into it then. I'm going to look into it, whether or not 5G survive a Carrington event. Because that would be interesting if it did. If it did, then maybe that's why they're doing it too. They want to protect the grid at all costs. But see, that doesn't matter. We're still going to suffer in the long run for the exposure to the RF and the microwaves, the millimeter microwaves.
That's something that Jack Cruz talks about, how the 5G internet, as well as like artificial lighting in our environment, has an effect on our DNA because it actually separates our proteins within our mitochondrial DNA, which reduces the electron chain transport.
And it also affects the
diseases.
Yeah, the junk DNA that basically activates the cancers. It also reduces your telomeres, which makes you age a lot quicker than normal. 5G is not fun, and it's just for the machines. It's not for you. It's not going to affect the machines. 888-673-3700. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.
FM News 101 KXL.
Join me on a journey where getting lost is the only true destination. Where the past, present, and future all coexist on the same timeline. Where happiness is an illusion. This is the future we are in right now. Where our phones are the first things that we touch when we wake up. The last thing we touch before falling asleep. Radiant, seductive screens we so lovingly, endlessly gaze upon. Much like you're doing right now. Well, welcome to a future where our true reflection is only revealed as the screen goes dark. Welcome to the darkness. I hope you find it enlightening.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. So with this $50 million budget for communications, engagement, and public relations, you're going to be told all of the good things about 5G. And hear how it's good for you, and it's going to be faster uploads, and just a great thing. They won't tell you about the side effects. They won't tell you about those things. Of course they won't. Meanwhile, with the smart internet of things that are coming our way, it's important to point out that as we embrace 5G and Big Brother, we see the arrival of smart intelligence bots that will soon be able to know your mental state just by listening to your voice and sensing body movement. Last month, Amazon was quietly issued a patent that would allow its virtual assistant, Alexa, to decipher a user's physical characteristics and emotional state based on their voice. Characteristics or voice features. They'll be looking at things like accent, ethnic origin, emotion, gender, age, and background noise. All of this would be immediately extracted and tagged to the user's data file to help deliver more targeted advertising. The algorithm would also consider a customer's physical location based on their IP address, primary shopping address, and browser settings to help determine their accent. Should Amazon's patent become a reality, or if accent detection is already possible, it would introduce questions of surveillance and privacy violations, as well as possible discriminatory advertising, or perhaps discriminatory profiling, or listening in on a conversation of known foreign agents, if there are any to be listened to. Yes, artificial intelligence may have racial bias in the brave new world. And this is something that, remember we talked about that a while ago? We talked about how whether or not, technology is not going to have a racial bias or some sort of, well, it is. And this is the reason why. civil rights issues raised by the patent right now are similar to those around facial recognition, another technology Amazon has used as an anchor of its artificial intelligence strategy. It's one that is very controversial. It's controversially marketed, and it's mostly marketed to law enforcement, this facial recognition. Now the voice technology is meant to enhance advertisement, but no, it's also being marketed to law enforcement. Like facial recognition, voice analysis underlines how existing laws and privacy safeguards simply aren't capable of protecting users from new categories of data collection or government spying, for that matter. Unlike facial recognition, voice analysis relies not on cameras in public spaces, but microphones inside smart speakers in your homes. It also raises its own thorny issues around advertising that targets or excludes certain groups of people based on derived characteristics like nationality, native language, and so on. So if we have voice-based accent detection, it is said that it can determine a person's ethnic background. It opens up a new category of information that is incredibly interesting to the government. In fact, it will spark interest in, I'm sure, in law enforcement, because they would be able to enact upon profiling and pre-crime analysis with this. I mean, the National Security Agency had developed technology not just to record and transcribe private conversations, but also to automatically identify speakers. An individual's voice print was then created, which could be cross-referenced with millions of other intercepted and recorded telephone video and internet calls. The other day, I was applying for life insurance, okay? And one of the things that they have you do is they want you to verify by saying yes. And that's the thing. It's called a voice catch, all right? I don't like doing voice catches. They scare me. And I had a freak out. I freaked out on the phone. Says, no, I'm not going to voice catch. They brought in a manager and everything. Don't worry. We're not going to use it against you. We just need a voice catch for you to verify that you want this life insurance policy. So I had a freak out about it. And I still have a freak out about it because of this very reason. Because if you can do voice print, all right, and it can be cross-referenced with millions of intercepted, recorded telephone and video internet calls, they have a voice print of me at this life insurance company, and if somebody wanted to, they could use it to have me say yes to a lot of things. That's the scary part. I mean, to create an American citizen's voice print, which government documents don't explicitly indicate has been done, experts said that the NSA would need only to tap into Amazon or Google's existing voice data. So if they wanted to get a voice print of you admitting to someone or finding a way to create a number of sentences pushed together, they could do it. I mean, over the past year, Amazon's relationship with the government has become increasingly cozy. In fact, BuzzFeed recently revealed details about how the Orlando Police Department was piloting something called Recognition. That's REKOGNITION. It's Amazon's facial recognition technology. And they were using it to identify persons of interest. A few months earlier, Amazon was outed by the ACLU for marketing recognition for government surveillance. Meanwhile, in June, the company was busy pitching immigration and customs enforcement officials on its technology. So not only are they pushing it on, investigators and police departments, I'm sure ICE wants it. I mean, look, this is how it goes. And many of you probably want to apply to it and probably will. So we know that if you have an Arabic accent with this, you can be profiled as a potential terrorist. If you have a Spanish accent, I'm sure that ICE would have interest in what you say, and I'm sure the FBI, CIA, and NSA certainly can detect any buzzwords that would indicate that you are a conservative white American that is just begging to be profiled as a white supremacist. See, they can pick up on, remember I talked about magic words a while back, say, hey, there are magic words that basically describe how you are and how you think. And just calling people a white supremacist or calling them a fascist doesn't work. You have to listen to what they say and what they do overall. Well, now you have a technology that'll listen to what you say. And if they pick up on the least bit of racist, racial type of voices or wording, they can easily pinpoint you as being a racist or a white supremacist. Just like an Arab that's speaking a certain way would be profiled as a terrorist, or if you speak Spanish, ICE will be very interested in what you have to say. And that's how full spectrum dominance works. That's how it will be implemented against you. Weak privacy laws in the United States are one reason consumers are vulnerable when tech companies start gathering new types of data about them, and there is nothing in the law that protects data collected about a person's mood or a person's accent. Do you realize how sick that is? They now can detect moods and accents and be able to use it for pre-crime activity. They can pin you for pre-crime activity, but they wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for 5G. Now they have the power to detect certain nuances in your voice that may mean that, hey, I hear in his voice, he sounds a little broken up. Do you think he's going to go out and kill somebody today? Well, we should stop him and ask him if he's planning on killing somebody today. Hey, listen to that guy. Does he sound a little bit like he's from south of the border? I wonder how his papers are. Let's go check him out. Hear that Arabic guy speaking? I know he's running a fast food place, and I know he seems to be nice to all the customers, but I believe it's a front. We should go there and talk to him and maybe talk to some of his other Arab brothers about how they feel about Arab Spring or how they feel about the United States and terrorism. See, this is the thing that it's just sickening. Because it can be normal, average people with accents or with different types of voice characteristics that they may pick up on, and they'd go, Clyde Lewis said something the other day was pretty bizarre. He said this, I'm wondering if he's plotting something. I wonder if he wants to carry out a crime because he's so caught up in this fringe stuff. That's the thing that just bothers me. It just bothers me. Let's go now quickly to Matt in Oregon. Hi, Matt. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey there, Clyde. How you doing there?
Doing good, man.
Hey, I haven't spoke to you for a long time, but anyhow, it's all about voice, facial recognition, and location. The government, we're already in 5G. I have a brother that lives in Germany, and he's using 5G for almost a year. We're way behind, people think, but we are already in 5G mode.
Parts of Europe are, and they're already saying, we don't like it. We want it gone. And like I said, Canada's fighting back and saying we don't like it. But the United States, we got it coming, and we're not even taking any steps to do a lot of environmental studies. We're not taking steps to do any independent studies as to how it's going to affect us all. We just know what we're hearing out of Europe. We just know what we're hearing out of Canada.
It's all too late. It's already here. It's all too late. The public doesn't know nothing about 5G. Literally, you have good knowledge, good sense, because you're into international news and tech, and all that makes sense. It's all heading towards us, and it's already here. It's too late. In 10 years, computer is going to take over. A rich guy doesn't want to stand on a computer and be posting ads, do this, do that. A robot is going to do that for him.
Right, and they'll want to beam it. They want to beam it right into your head. And and Matt, do I detect an accent? Wink, wink. Do I detect an accent? Maybe I should market sausages and lederhosen to you, Matt. What do you think? Do you think that'd be hilarious? And some beer, damn it. We'll do the beer thing too.
That's a good one. Hey, I really, you're an intelligent man. And,
thank you.
A lot of citizens here in the United States, they just don't know what is heading.
Well, we're trying to get that information out, and I really appreciate you supporting the program, listening to the program, because, we're giving you information you're not going to get from the mainstream, and that's our goal. That's what we want to do. We want to give you that information. You can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want. None of this is conspiracy theory, okay? None of it's conspiracy theory. That's the beauty of it all. See, we have that ability to get you that information, so you'll be able to prepare it once it's here. I've been talking about this all the way back to 2016, before the election started. And I said that is the thing that they need to talk about, our future innovations and how they can bite us in the ass if we're not paying attention. And this is it, 5G. We'll be back.
The things that go bump in the night. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Let's go to Sean in Oregon. Hi, Sean. You're on Ground Zero. Sean. John. Don.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Who is this?
This is John Ingram.
Hi, John. People are hard of hearing tonight. We got Dons, Johns, and Seans. Let's go to John in Oregon. Hi, John. You're on Ground Zero.
Okay. Hey, I was a few years back, you used to be able to go into the DMV and get your picture taken and then walk out with your license. And now they send it to the capital of Salem, to the main office, and it takes a couple weeks. And I just wondered if they're putting a chip in our license, or what your thoughts were on that.
Have you looked at your license? I mean,
Well, they hide it in there. I mean, without knowing it. And
there's a way to find out. You just look at your license. Let's see what we got here on mine. I got one. There's a watermark on my license, and the watermark seems to have a rainbow-like sheen to it. So I would say yes, they have a chip on your license.
Well, it just seems like another way to. I mean, there's obviously good and bad things. You know, they could follow people with Amber Alerts and do, a lot of good things, right? But on the other hand, then seems like another way to, control us or.
Well, look, you're pretty much on the grid if you have a license. You're pretty much on the grid if you carry money. Right. But the thing is it's not about controlling you. See, everybody thinks, they're going to control me with a chip. It's not about that. It's about watching you. It's about watching you. It's about, getting into your head and saying, you don't sound well today. Is there something we can do for you? Oh, listen to you. You sound like that you want to kill someone. Let's send the police over. This is the type of thing that they're going to do with the new technologies. It's going to be thought crime all the way. It's going to be Big Brother watching you. It's going to be machines basically doing the jobs of humans and enforcing the laws. Knock at your door from a robot, saying, can we come in and search? And I'm not saying that it's going to be, like RoboCop, but I'm saying it's going to be like something that looks more like a Dalek from Doctor Who showing up at your door and saying, I will enter your home and I will search your home. If you do anything to the robot, it will, immediately, police will be summoned to the house and you'll be shot because you're destroying city property.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, everything will be in communication with everything else. When you walk into the building will communicate that you've walked into this building. They'll have a record of it somewhere. And so they can say, was he in this building? Yes, we have him tracked at this building at this time of day. He was there. And there's always guilt by association, too. We heard him speaking to someone, that sounds like he's from Dubai. And he's a drug trafficker from Dubai and a human trafficker from Dubai. I mean, this is how it works.
Right. Well, it's conspiracy theory, right?
No, it's not conspiracy theory at all.
Oh.
No. It's just reality, okay? The patents are ready to go, and this is not conspiracy theory. I mean, I'm not doing this to say, hypothetically. No, this isn't a hypothetical. This is a reality.
What I was saying is that you were saying that one person talks to another person and then they get in on your conversation.
Right. And they can listen. They can have microphones everywhere and they can take a voice imprint of you and they can recognize your voice and they can hear you talking somewhere else and they'll go, that sounds like so-and-so. Let's do another markup to see where he was. And the scary part is with new software, they can get you to say anything. So if they get a voice imprint of you, they can duplicate your voice and they can make you say anything, including confess to a crime you didn't commit.
Right.
So it'll violate your privacy. It'll violate your cognitive liberty. These are things that, I don't think anybody's ever thought of that are going to happen to us in the future. And that's because of the fact that people don't think outside the box. They're too busy listening to what Donald Trump has to say, or they're too busy listening to what CNN has to say. And, I'll tell you what. If they'll pull their heads out of their south ends for a moment and give us news that's really important about the innovations that come around and harm us, then I would find the news to be very interesting and very enlightening, but it's not anymore. And neither are our politicians. They're not enlightening. They don't care about us. All they care about is the front of their feet and the object of the personality cult they created. It's just enough to make you ill.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I don't know. They're not, and my vote's not going to go to voice recognition software that's going to make a voice imprint of me or my friends who they may think are terrorists, who they may think are going to commit a crime that day. I mean, this is Philip K. Dick territory, and they're walking through it all the time. And we in America are just like sitting there saying, whatever, in Canada, at least, they're fighting against it. And they're going after Google and they're saying, hey guys, you're not going to take over our city and you're not going to put in your stupid smart stuff. You're not going to have the appliances talk to us. we said to the world that we didn't want to have the metric system, right? And so we have it sort of, kind of, but we're not full metric. We're one of the only countries in the world that isn't metric. So, we can actually say, we don't need 5G either. But you got to tell that to the FCC. You got to tell that to all these other guys that are looking at big profits from it. It's like that guy that was doing the speech, and he says they can make billions of money, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with making millions of money, but at what cost? Cancer, children being born with birth defects, people being born, with these viruses that are causing paralysis. Is that what you think? Is that what you want? Well, 5G's bringing it. They won't tell you the after effects. They won't tell you the side effects. They certainly want that money. 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
This is Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Tomorrow always holds the promise of something new and exciting. And this strangely graceful, old and creative building bears out that promise. But tomorrow is always built on today. And that is where our story began.
Starting to see more products connected to the internet. And I think over time, it's starting to create the sort of home of the future, right, where everything talks to each other and things happen on that. It's like the Jetsons vision.
Well, investigators in Arkansas are making what could be a first-of-its-kind request. They have a search warrant for data from an Amazon Echo.
And now investigators want Amazon to hand over data from Bates' virtual assistant, known as the Amazon Echo. In their warrant, they say data from the device could help them prosecute Bates.
Probably the next 10 years, by 2020, 25, robots are going to permeate wide aspects of our daily life. We're going to be interacting with them all the time.
The stoplight where a pedestrian was just stepping off the curb as that Uber car equipped for self-driving sailed right through a red light.
What happens if humans are obsoleted in the next 50 years, where all this new technology that's coming along changes what we would do every day?
More companies are incorporating smart home tech into their upgrade packages, whether you're replacing the furnace or the alarm system or whatever. Now,
in 2016, 80 million smart home devices were delivered worldwide, a 64% increase from 2015, and that's all according to a brand new report from IHS Markit.
That they can hold key roles in society, like security guards or even caretakers in some instances.
Thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men. These are machine men with machine minds and machine hearts.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. Numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. 888-673-3700. The future is now. And no matter how cliche that sounds, it is now. And people are beginning to wise up to what is happening. America, a little behind. Pretty soon we're going to wake up and our world is going to change. The paradigm is going to change, and people are going to say, why wasn't I told? Why didn't I hear about it? It's because they didn't have the right dialogue. They didn't have the discussion that we're having tonight. The discussions here on Ground Zero. It's very important that we speak together about this, because 5G is coming and no one is putting up a fight. They're saying, well, just let it come. It's not going to harm you. Of course it's not going to harm you. Look, I could wake up tomorrow, 5G could be in my neighborhood, and I'd still be coming on the air talking to you. It wouldn't bother me. We're already in a smog of electromagnetic energy because of Wi-Fi. People are getting cancers, though, for being exposed to these radio frequencies, these microwave frequencies. People are being affected by them. Bees are being affected by them. You heard about what happened in the hay. We had birds dying. We had ducks that were putting their heads in the water to avoid being attacked by the microwaves. They wound up drowning. See, the future is kind of bizarre. And while they roll out all of the wonderful things that 5G will do, like some great pharmaceutical commercial with a miracle cure, they never tell you what the side effects are. They never tell you what's going to happen next. Let's go to David in Texas. Hi, David. You're on Ground Zero.
Man, Clyde, when you tell me that, it's depressing, man. You hear, ducks just would rather drown themselves than live in that. And they're no pun, they're the canaries in the coal mine trying to show us where we're going. And you know what, Clyde? Nobody's going to care. because we've got our false reality. We're already completely mesmerized by it. People can't put their phones down. I saw a commercial the other day, and I rarely watch TV. It starts with this lady. She's in a lotus position on her floor, and it's talking about how she wants to get into her spirituality and find herself, and how she's looking deeper within herself. And the camera zooms out slowly during the commercial as she's talking about her spirituality, but she's not meditating at all. She's playing on her smartphone. And I'm thinking, what we've, and like you say, other people are complaining, but Americans are not, because we like our trivial lifestyle. We're like the trout that gets the little spinner reel lure in the water, the little rooster tail, and it spins around, and the trout eventually doesn't care about real fish anymore. It'll go after that rooster tail because the fake reality becomes more attractive to it than
David, remember I was saying, when the simulation becomes better than the reality, we will accept the simulation. And that's why when people tell me, oh, I can tell the difference. No.
No, they
you
can't.
Tell the difference. We're already been yes, it's happening. And anybody who will tell me differently,
you said it. We're already, when somebody told you we'll never interface with technology, you told them we're already interfacing with it.
Yep.
And let me tell you, Kyle, or Clyde, I go out into the woods because I can't stand any of this. I do my best to get out in nature and just get away from it. I was parked. I won't go too long, but I was parked out in the middle of nowhere. I got a parking ticket. Okay, so I marched over. I knew where the police station was, and I went and kind of protested politely and said, look, I wasn't blocking anything. I wasn't in the middle of the street. I was in the woods, and they were kind of rude about it. And he said, well, it was suspicious because I saw your bag on the passenger seat, and I saw your phone sitting there. And I don't have a smartphone. I got rid of the darn thing and went back to a flip phone. But I thought, why is he considering that suspicious that I don't? And I thought about it for a minute, and I go, you know why that's suspicious to him? Because what kind of psychopath would walk into the woods without their umbilical cord to their safety net to the world?
Well, not only that, David, they call those burner phones. I found that out. That's why I now have an iPhone, because I was actually asked about my flip phone by a police officer saying, well, don't you have a regular telephone that you can use? I said, no, I don't have one. I have one of these. He says, these phones are called burner phones, and then most drug users and drug dealers use them.
There you go. So even law enforcement already thinks it's odd for somebody to have a flip phone.
Because that means that it makes it a lot harder for them to track you. That's the way it is.
And this is already the great deception. I'm already arguing with my friend saying, this is it. This is already it. And your caller that was worried about a microchip in his license plate, he's got bigger issues than that. In Texas, there's a DD number, and it's at the bottom of your driver's license. And it's about a 22 numbers, and it's your digital download. And if you take a magnifying glass and tilt your image or your picture on your driver's license into your light or whatever you're saying, look at it. It's a grid pattern. It's got lines going up and down. It's got lines going side to side. Your number's already assigned to you with the globe cameras that are on the intersections, and the CCT cameras that were there first are honed into your license plate. So not only it's tracking your license plate, you've already got a facial recognition profile built through your license plate.
Did you know there's an area here, and you're right about that, and I'll tell you why you're right about this. There's an area here in Oregon, in Portland, downtown, where it's near my house. It's a road called Division, I think. Yeah, it's Division. Road called Division. And what it has is a warning sensor. You hit the warning sensor. If you're speeding the warning sensor, a sign comes up and says you are speeding. Okay? If you do not reduce your speed after the warning sensor, it will trigger another sensor. And that sensor prepares a camera that's waiting, and it will snap your picture. Now, if you decide that you're going to slow down before the sensor and the camera doesn't get you there are a number of unmarked vehicles that are strategically placed along the road that will snap your picture if you decide to speed up after the sensor has picked you up. So the whole area is camera driven, and it immediately sends a signal to your driver's license as to who you are and why you're there in the car, if it's your car at all.
Well, let me tell you, Clyde, I got an attorney because I got one of those red light cameras going through a certain part of San Antonio, Texas. And he said, you don't pay them. And I said, first of all, they sent it to me 4 years after the photograph was taken. It was 2008, and I got the thing in the mail in 2012. which was odd enough. So, of course, I called an attorney. I'll make it quick. He goes, you don't pay those. They're unconstitutional. I've got a whole stack of them on my desk. Only a fool pays those tickets. And he said, did they wait several years to send it to you? And I go, yes. And he goes, that's part of the intimidation factor.
Right.
He said, did it also tell you that you have to prove that you're not the driver of the car? I have the constitutional right to prove I'm not the driver rather than them prove that I'm guilty of driving the vehicle. It's just a picture of the back of the car. There's no picture of the... It's completely BS.
Did you ever answer to that? Did you ever answer to that ticket?
Yes, I called them up and I said, please put me on your, not resistance to pay, but my unwillingness to pay. They have a list. He says, why don't you come down here and speak to us about it? And I laughed and I said, no, thank you, sir. Please put me on your I will not pay list. I will refuse to pay.
But you would not speak to anybody. You know who you would speak with, right, when you go there? You would speak,
you would speak with the commissioner of the local police department on the phone.
Right. But if you go there, they say, come speak to us. Unless you arrange a meeting, you will not be speaking with anybody. You'll be speaking with a robot that will be attached to an ATM where you'll have to put the ticket in and pay. You don't see a judge. You don't see anything. If you plead not guilty, that's when you see a judge. But if you go in and say, yeah, okay, you got me, I can't prove it, then you don't even speak to you speak to an AI that's connected to an ATM that basically you're transferring money from one account to another to pay your fine. That's what it is. That's what happened when I lived in Utah.
That's extortion.
Well, I couldn't believe it. I said, can I see a judge? No, you don't have to see a judge. We got you here, and that's you. So you just go right ahead up to this. You just go right here up to this computer, and it'll tell you what to say. It'll tell you what to do, and it talks to you, and you talk to it, and then it says, okay, pay in full, please. And then you have to put your card in, pay in full, and then they say, thank you. You know, your city loves you.
How anybody's okay with that is beyond my, we're not.
It's like having Hal, as your judge. I can't do that, Dave. Sorry, Dave. You got a ticket in San Antonio? I'm sorry. You'll have to pay it, Dave. That's just something.
Yeah, I'm not there. They can come get me. I'll go spend a night in jail before I pay that. But anyway, Clyde, I love your program. I hope you can get to people. I'm a pessimist. I think we're already. I think it's. You tell me the story of ducks. I just want to, it's like animals are dying off, and it's more important that we have our distraction box with than it is that, what hypocrites, because how many of those people are pro, animal, probably don't eat meat, and yet here they are walking down with their, their microwave, cancer zapper, and it's affecting, the wildlife.
If I was to say to Liam, Tomato Man or Tomato Head just killed a bunch of ducks, I think he'd hate that.
Well,
Tomato Head killed a bunch of ducks, Liam. It's killing ducks. Tomato Head's killing ducks. Your dancing Fortnite friends are killing ducks, dude. You got to stop it.
Thanks for making me laugh. Anyway, Clyde, I love your show, man. I hope you can get to people. I really do, man.
I'm trying it, buddy. Thank you, David. Yeah, man. That school bus that you're in that's flying over that city in the major cube thing, killing ducks. You're killing ducks, dude. Tomato Head kills ducks. Dead. That's horrible. You tell that to a kid. Actually, he wasn't playing Fortnite the other night. He was playing some Western, and I was getting into it. He was like, it's this Western game. I think it's called Red Dead 2 or something. He was playing that, and he was like, hey, he goes, Dad. I go, yeah. He says, come watch me rob a train. Come watch me rob a train. And it was hilarious because he had to rig up charges for dynamite on a bridge. And apparently when one of the guys went over to hit the plunger to blow up the bridge, the dynamite didn't work. And I said, great job. They're not going to be able to rob the train. So they had to jump on the train. They had to take out everybody to get to rob the train. It was hilarious. It was like add to your own adventure, but it was really funny that he put the charges on the dynamite and they didn't go off because the plunger didn't go off. But it was fun to watch him play it. It's better than having him, always playing Fortnite, but that was kind of funny. Hey, I want to let you know something. I really, really, really am thanking those who are going out and they're going the extra mile and going to the Ground Zero store and picking up on T-shirts and cool stuff. We have the best logo designed by Matt Haley. Matt Haley, of course, well known for Superman Returns and Wonder Woman. He just did a wonderful artist tribute to Stan Lee. And so Our T-shirts are available now. They're in different colors. They're hoodies, everything. And we got a great T-shirt place that does it for us at the Ground Zero store. That's groundzerostore.org. And the thing about the Ground Zero store is if you go there, sometimes they offer you half price. And they give you this like limited time half price where you can get half price on all kinds of merchandise. So you're just taking you're rolling the dice. You may get lucky and you may be able to get everything on half price, but still it helps the show. You get to have cool gifts for Christmas for all the Ground Zero fans in your life. So you can go to the Ground Zero store. That's groundzerostore.com. That's groundzerostore.org. Sorry. groundzerostore.org. groundzerostore.org. Go there. You pick up your T-shirts. Also, Amazon.com, the place to go for my books. They're available also. So if you have a Ground Zero fan in your midst that would love to read some of the books I have, they're available at Amazon. Just type in Clyde Lewis, Amazon.com. I saw somebody the other day on eBay. I guess they're selling my books for like $50 in Australia. Yeah, that's amazing. I can't believe that. But they buy them and then they resell them. I don't know. But you can get them for a good price, less than $20 on Amazon. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
Hey, it's Ronnie with us again, and I want to ask him about the 3-letter oil. Now, that's pretty mysterious. There's a lot of letters out there that we can think of. There's TLC, Tender Loving Care. That's PDQ, Pretty Damn Quick. But this is the 3-letter mystery and the oil that brings the 3 letters. What can you tell me about this mystery 3-letter oil?
This 3-letter oil is amazing, and so much is going on in the news with this oil, and this is something that I pride myself in the company because it is GMO-free, and it is organic. And there's a lot of companies out there selling the 3-letter oil, but maybe doesn't go through quite the rigmarole that I go through to get the purest and the best. So it's kind of the Ferrari of oils. The benefits, if somebody has anxiety, really will help you. Stress is, and here's a little fact from stress. Stress will take a normal body, somebody with perfect circulatory system, and can give them a heart attack if they're stressed too much. So stress is really important to get rid of. That'll also knot your muscles up.
My wife loves the 3-letter oil. It helps her out. She just had her breast cancer. She's happy, and it helps her a great deal. And I'm happy, too. And I just would wonder, when are we going to be able to be free to give out information about the 3-letter oil?
It might have to be a mystery oil for all times, but one thing that I love about it, it's legal in 49 states. And we've opened up. We're just opening up to Britain as well, so that's kind of exciting. They're kind of understanding the 3-letter oil. So a lot of places are, catching on board whether the government wants to go that way or not.
Well, I love it. It works. And, Ronnie, I'm so glad you have it out there for everybody. Where can we pick it up?
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com.
Thank you, man.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Let's go to Brian in Florida. Hi, Brian. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, what's going on, Clyde?
How you doing, man?
I have a algorithmic riddle for you.
Okay.
So we're talking about 5G, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the pituitary gland is a chemical sensor for the human body.
Right.
So let's say hypothetically that you could send 5G waves through a algorithm to a certain person to simulate them to get a response.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, I know that 5G can be used, and is accidentally used it can be used on soldiers. Access denial or active denial weapons are 5G weapons. And these, and like you say, they work on a lot of the glands. They work on the endocrine system. They work on they actually reduce melatonin levels, so it's harder to sleep when you're exposed to them. And they've been known to keep people up for long periods of time to make them go into psychosis or to make them, do that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, you can use that kind of technology, that kind of power to get people to do things they wouldn't normally do, basically under duress.
So under that understanding of an algorithm, let's use the word train. What is your thought pattern on that?
Train? What do you mean?
Train, the word train.
Well, I think of trains. I think of the vehicles that pull, boxcars, trains.
And now I'm thinking of somebody being trained for a new trade.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're talking about training. They can use it for. Of course, they can use it for training. They can use it for interface. I mean,
we're beating the machine. I'm giving you hope in this transition that we're going through. The fact is that the machine doesn't understand human implication in language. So when I say the word train, the machine's never going to understand the implication that I have in my word unless the machine understands the human implication in language. So we always have...
But no, they can do that. They will be able to do that. They'll be able to recognize it in inflection. They'll be able to recognize it in inflection and in tone.
So I need to order a train. So now what am I saying?
Well, there's something called context. Okay. I want to order a train. Okay, and so the AI would say, so do you want a train big enough to carry merchandise, or do you want a train as an electric train?
So now I want to order a train air conditioner. Do you see what the problem is that the algorithm doesn't have complicated understanding the way we do, and it will never understand.
It doesn't now, and it will.
It might in the future if we give it that ability.
Well, it'll gain its own ability by learning from us. That's the whole point. It learns from us.
But the thing is that ancient language is based off of 5 different meanings to 7 different meanings for each word that's been translated.
But what I'm saying is that computers now, I mean, Siri doesn't understand Grail from grill. Okay, I understand that. But they will have thinking computers that will understand through inflection, tone, and context. And they're doing that all the time. They're learning that all the time. Computers will learn from that. If you say, I want a train, it will say, can you be more specific of what you mean by that? The computer will ask you questions. It's not going to just...
I'm never going to give it the answer.
Well, then you're not going to get what you want.
Well, that's the point. You understand?
No, I don't. I mean, if the computer's the only thing that's going to get you what you want,
No, that's not true. We have human relationships, man. Good luck with your...
Okay. Yeah, we have human relationships, but most people's human relationships are what they find on the internet. And a lot of people have boyfriends and girlfriends they've not even met. They just know them from the internet. I mean, this is not for me. This is for them. This is for the generation after me. 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
Ground Zero. So this is where the first guy got AIDS.
Peter, this is the site of the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Oh, so Saddam Hussein did this?
No.
The Iraqi army?
No.
Some guys from Iraq?
No.
That one lady who visited Iraq that one time?
No, Peter, Iraq had nothing to do with this. It was a bunch of Saudi Arabians, Lebanese, and Egyptians financed by a Saudi Arabian guy living in Afghanistan and sheltered by Pakistanis.
So you're saying we need to invade Iran?
Spoke up and said, Wayne Shaming. The loudspeaker spoke up and said, Wayne Shaming. The loudspeaker spoke up and said, Wayne Shaming. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. At the beginning of the year, even as far back as 2016, I, along with other people like Jamie Lee, Alana Freeland, and others, were talking about 5G, fifth generation wireless communications technology. Basically, we were telling everybody that by the end of the year, this would be the push, whether it be chips or 5G networks, or be ready for it, because by 2020, it has to be installed. It has to be ready to go. Engineers expect that it will be able to handle about 1,000 times more mobile data than today's cellular systems. It'll also become the backbone of the Internet of Things, linking up fixed and mobile devices, vending machines, cars. It's all part of a new industrial and economic revolution. It's basically new architecture that will speak to you, new communication technologies where you can speak to everything from the sod on your lawn in your yard. I mean, how is it that your lawn will talk to your electronic sprinkler system to say, I need to be watered? Or there will be another message, I need to be mowed, right? The kids will get the message on their cell phones that the lawn needs to be mowed because it's growing beyond a certain capacity. The chip is saying to the phone, hey, tell somebody to mow me, I need to be mowed. Can you imagine that? A lawn telling you to mow them. Or how about a building that's saying, hey, there's part of me that's falling apart, I need you to fix me. So the building will tell you this because through the Internet of Things, new architecture, new communication technologies, all running into the smart grid. And so when you have that, I mean, these are some conveniences that, of course, you'll say, wow, man, that's the future. That's Ray Bradbury kind of stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Well, of course it's Ray Bradbury stuff. And who wouldn't want to have a house talking to you and tell you it needs maintenance? I mean, cars do that now. You know, you get a little, light goes off. You go in to get some sort of analysis done at a car parts store or a tire store. And they can run Star Trek, they can run a scan on the car and figure out what's bothering it, right? So the car is complaining to you by sending signals to you, and you have to go in and then it'll talk to a computer, and the computer will say, well, this is what's wrong with the car. Well, this is what's going to happen to your house, except it's going to ring your cell phone. The house will call you and say, oh, by the way, I need maintenance. Or the refrigerator will contact the store telling the store that you're out of milk. You'll get a call from a clerk at Safeway or Albertsons or Kroger's or Walmart. It'll be a person on the other end said, we just got a phone call from your refrigerator saying that you're low on milk. Would you like us to make a delivery? Or we can always send a drone over to drop it off for you if you need to. This is how the Internet of Things works. It's kind of a convenient thing, but it's also about machines. It's not about you. Yeah, you benefit a bit from it, but the machines also get smarter. And with the Internet of Things, we find ourselves connected to our homes. From our homes, we're connected to the schools. From the schools, we're connected to our workplaces, cities, parks, open spaces, 1 trillion objects around the world, all interconnected, and you are interconnected as well because you will have a chip in your body that will connect you to everything. It'll connect you to your phones. It'll connect you to machines. That way, you won't have to have anyone do it for you. The machine will contact you, and you'll talk to the machine. It's an interface, and it promises that cars will drive themselves. Washing machines will order their own washing detergent and softener, plus, of course, super fast downloads, streaming, all that. According to Fortune.com, 5G will support at least 100 billion devices and will be 10 to 100 times faster than current 4G technology. It'll bring download speed up to 10 gigabits per second, and this would let us have an entire building of people send each other data in close to no time, thus improving productivity. Now, remember what they told us about the Internet. They said, well, the Internet is going to increase productivity. The Internet is going to make it easier for you to work at home. You won't have to go to a brick and mortar building every day, and you can avoid the traffic. But guess what it did? It didn't do that. People still want you to come to a building. People still want you to use the computers in that very building. What it has done is it made the workday a lot harder for you because you can cram more things into a workday using a computer. I mean, we could decrease the traffic problem in most cities if we just telecommuted. If you have a computer job, if you have a job where you use a computer and you don't have to be in the office, then you can do that at home and still get paid. But no, they want to be able to watch you. It's all about watching. And that's why machines, when they get the 5G, they'll be able to watch you. Because all of these mind-blowing data capabilities, practically unrestricted. You got call volumes unrestricted. You got infinite data broadcast that's unrestricted. 5G is using largely untappable bandwidth of the millimeter wave system, which is between 30 gigahertz and 300 gigahertz, as well as some lower and mid-range frequencies. But this means that we're going to have antennas everywhere in our houses, in our garages, all over the place. All over the place. And it'll also make the transformation of more powerful artificial intelligence possible. So the only problem that I see is that while the Internet of Things and 5G will make super cities possible and faster, faster cities, faster cars, and AI, of course, thinking AI a reality. These millimeter waves and the limitations they pose are certainly going to cause problems for health. And as I said before, this is for the machine. It's not for you. And thousands of studies have linked low-level wireless radio frequency radiation exposures to a long list of adverse biological effects, including DNA single and double-strand breaks, oxidative damage, disruption of cell metabolism, increased blood-brain barrier permeability, melatonin reduction, as I said earlier, it does wreak havoc on your melatonin, disruption to brain glucose metabolism, generation of stress proteins. And let's not all forget that in 2011, the World Health Organization classified radio frequency radiation as a possible 2B carcinogen. More recently, the $25 million National Toxicology Program concluded that radio frequency radiation of the type currently used by cell phones can cause cancer. And given that 5G is set to utilize frequencies above and below existing frequency bands, 5G sits in the middle of all this. But the tendency, it varies from country to country, of course, is that 5G is going to be utilized for higher frequency bands and for machines. And the United States is currently leading the way on 5G. China is leading the way on 5G. And of course, the FCC is pushing communities to put 5G in, and they're limiting restrictions on them waiting and holding out to the bitter end. So it's almost like they're making it mandatory. We got to have 5G, make it mandatory. We got to be able to put this in and have it ready to go. We got billions of connections we have to do. We have to continue to do this. And, they're starting it now because they have to have it ready to go by 2030. I mean, fully operational 2020, but 2030, I think, will be the ending point. Ending point for anything is 2030 because that's what they all planned on when they had the 2030 summit. It's the political move to the future. It's the New World Order, all sanitized and ready for every one of us. And that's why they're pushing the socialism issue now, because by the time we're too old to care, we will already be in that position in this country. So enjoy your nationalism while you can. It's not going to be long before they take it away from you. Seriously. It's going to be gone. It's not going to be long before people go, what's a constitution? Because they won't need it anymore. The documents and the treaties we make with other countries are going to be enough to basically negate the Constitution and enjoy a nice, happy family of those under one umbrella that's connected together with a chip and with a beast system. We're all integrating into 5G, where machines are going to be the ones dictating what we do. And once again, we'll be enslaved to a greater cause, and that is 5G power everywhere we go. Sounds like a utopia, doesn't it? Well, like I said earlier, Toronto doesn't see it that way. They're suing. And other people should start waking up to the possibility that we may have to do that too, to protect our sanity and to protect ourselves from any of the problems in the occurrences of health destruction due to these 5G waves. So it's time to educate yourself and listen up and get involved in the dialogue tonight. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Back with your phone calls. Don't go away. Right here on Ground Zero.
News 101 KXL.
This is Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Go to Chris in Oregon. Hi, Chris. You're on Ground Zero.
Hello, Clyde. Hope all is well.
Yes, everything's great.
Very well. It's a pleasure listening to your show tonight. It's always much better when I'm getting paid to do it at the same time, because I am at work.
It's great.
Anyways, I think I'm well tapped into the whole machine thing. I say that because, when I get off work and I take off my underwear or my socks, there's something that tells me in my machine of a brain that those socks and underwear are dirty and they need to be washed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to order me soap or anything, from the grocery store and have it delivered.
But they will eventually.
Exactly.
I mean, if your underwear or your clothes will have chips in them, and they will notify the manufacturer they haven't been laundered for a week. And they already do that now. There are chips in your clothing that actually they don't necessarily tell you where they're located, but they will notify the manufacturer how they were laundered, where they're at, if they're in a closet or if they're hanging out, and so that way they can better the product by knowing how the person is treating the product.
Yes, I think we talked about that on your show not too long ago, as well as the particles in the air that you're breathing in that could be affected by what's coming along, which is going to be the 5G.
Nanites, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't they just do some tests on rats recently with 5G and the effects on that? And they were so unfortunate. They caused so much damage to the rats that they said the test was inconclusive, and they didn't want to use it as a study, but they used rats for all kinds of studies before they tested on humans, and they didn't want to come out with that.
Well, they were saying it did cause problems it caused a lot of problems for mice. Yes, it did.
I'd rather die by the way of Big Mac than 5G any day.
Yeah, well, it's a slow burning process. It's like boiling a frog in water. It's exactly what it is.
You had a caller not too long ago. He was completely in love with his Alexa and the whole 5G thing. And is he not aware that Alexa now is basically what governmental agencies were doing in the past, which was they'd have to sneak into your home to plant bugs, in a plant or behind a picture or something like that. But now the public just is so willing to go out and buy this piece of machinery and put it in their house is basically a bug.
What was it? 2 Christmases ago, I said, no way would I have one of those in my home. And I would never bring in a listening device or an assistant because all that stuff goes into the cloud. It's heard. It's monitored. They can get voice imprints from it. I don't understand why people would be so unaware of it. It's like I said, I was on the phone the other day trying to get a life insurance policy. They wanted a voice imprint, and I panicked. I told the guy, I'm not doing it. It was, you know what it was like? It was like the first time when you were a kid getting a shot. And you knew that the needle was going to hurt you, but they said, oh, no, you'll be okay. And so the needle goes in. It does hurt you, and you're better afterwards. But that's the way I felt. I was so panicked. I didn't want to leave my voice imprint on anything because I was worried that they were going to use it against me. I never felt paranoid like that in my life. It was horrible.
Unbelievable. It's just, it's crazy how people are actually paying for this product. They're spending their money to do what the government wants.
Well, it's because they're told it's going to be convenient for them for advertising and buying and music. And you have to, and look, I remember when I first saw the assistant or when I first heard of Alexa, I thought, what this is it's basically a clapper. Remember clap on, clap off, that thing?
That was
like,
awesome.
Alexa, turn on the lights. Alexa, I mean, people are now mad at me because they're listening on Alexa right now and their Alexa's going crazy. I know that is because I know a friend of mine, and then I say that. Sorry, guys. Didn't mean to say that. I got your Alexas all turning on and off. But yeah, it's happened before. People send me emails where their Alexa's been turned on when I say that. But see, they have to buy the programs to make that happen, so it makes it all controlled from one central source. But the recordings and the cloud where they keep things, it's like they're doing investigations now where possible murderers or drug dealers or whatever are having their Alexas being taken into court, and they're using it against them.
So that's very scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
And I'm not saying that I condone crime, but, it could easily, with a voice print, be made to look like you committed something or said something. And now with voice recognition and accent recognition and word recognition in context, what you've got is you've got an Alexa now or you've got an assistant now that can pretty much figure out if you're having a bad day. And if you are, they may alert authorities to come in and get a welfare check on you, and they may find things that you don't want them to find.
Well, yeah, you start crying or you have a different tone in your voice, all of a sudden you're mental and they want to come take your guns.
Yeah.
Or
can you imagine? Could you imagine your assistant saying to you, "I don't like the way you sound today. Are the guns locked up? If they're not, should I call a police officer to come give you a welfare check? Should I tell them you're armed? Oh, no, you don't tell them I'm armed. Oh, but you are, aren't you?" I can just imagine that.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, that's our future.
And with all this, my last point, another thing I wanted to say was, how is all this going to be protected by something, something your other caller mentioned too, and that you talked about was, just a simple EMP or a solar flare that's headed our way.
I'm sure, and I was talking to another guy. He said that they've taken provisions about it. 5G is different. It's a different type of wave.
Well, our infrastructure.
It's microwave. It's a different type of wave. 5G's infrastructure wouldn't be touched by it.
So then that boils down to, possibly everything that they're spraying into the air that, pretty much is just putting us into a giant microwave anyway.
Well, I mean, what it is it's basically you're turning into a transmitter for whatever it is they want. I mean, these low microwaves, you're becoming a transmitter as well. You're the one transmitting. I mean, we conduct electricity and we also transmit. So that's why you're able to hear me on your radio, is because these radio waves are going through you. You don't even realize it because you don't see them, but the radio waves are going through and they're going to your radio.
So would that be like the air being ionized with like chemtrails or something? Would that be, considered, possibility?
In a way, yeah. It would be kind of like that. But once again, you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't know it's there unless they had some sort of a way of showing it to you. But like right now, you're in the middle of all these waves and you're bathing in them. And, you don't even realize. You don't even realize, like I said, you're like a frog being cooked slowly in a pot. And they can just keep turning up the power and turning up the power. In the meantime, we're all having our DNA screwed with. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
This is Ground Zero. More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Let us take you with us to the world of the future. The city of tomorrow will be fantastic in design. Alive with speeding vehicles. People trying to keep pace with the speed of living created by themselves.
But what about the city of the day after tomorrow, say the year 2000? I think it would be completely different. In fact, it may not even exist at all. Oh, I'm not thinking of the atom bomb and the next Stone Age. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough which has been made possible by developments in communication.
Projections show that by 2050, 2/3 of the global population will live in cities, which makes it imperative that our future cities aren't vast urban hellscapes, but are instead smart urban centers.
Cell tower going up in your neighborhood? If it's not now, it may soon. Wireless carriers are installing millions of them across the country. To enable the new, faster 5G cell phone technology.
5G is a software-defined network. It means that while it won't replace cables entirely, it could replace the need for them by largely operating on the cloud instead. This means it will have 100 times better capacity than 4G.
It's about more than faster connections. It's about new connections, allowing for massive transfers of data.
Next on humans, the rollout of 5G technology is a massive health experiment that will have disastrous consequences for the human race.
Progress that eliminates free will and renders humanity irrelevant? You've gone mad.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other, wherever we may be, where we can contact our friends anywhere on Earth, even if we don't know their actual physical location.
You are listening to Ground Zero. The number's call tonight, 888-673-3700. Had a great conversation tonight about 5G. Again in the news because of what's going on in Toronto, Canada. They're now suing. Say they don't want it in Canada. They don't want a city, a smart city. They don't want a prototype smart city in Canada. So they're suing to have it not built. But here in America, we're still kind of wondering, do we want 5G? Well, yeah, we want 5G. It's going to be better for us. Not for you, it's not. It's going to be better for the machines. Yeah, we all want efficient running machines. Of course we do. But we don't want efficient running machines that are going to run all over you and run all over me. And that's the point. Carlos in California, you're on Ground Zero.
Hello.
Hello, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Clyde. I'm calling from Florida.
Okay,
Florida.
Carlos from Florida. How are you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, Clyde? I hope you're getting better and your wife as well.
Yes, thank you.
I'm praying for you guys.
Thank
It's
you.
not easy what you guys going through, so wish you the best.
Thank you.
And Clyde, and I'm a first-time caller. I'm always listening to you from my tractor trailer now.
Uh-huh.
You always make me think a lot of things. Like, for example, that I think the corporation want all of us to be living like the people. Remember from the Disney movie WALL-E?
Oh, yeah, I remember the Disney movie, yeah, WALL-E, where everybody gets fat and they're like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all getting fat, slackers,
Yep. Machines are doing the work for us. That's exactly right. Yeah.
I think that's where we're heading to. I mean, in the way you explain it, and the health issue. I mean, the health issue is something that concerns me about 5G because do you remember back in '95 the movie Johnny Mnemonic?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember the movie? How that girl was affected by the radio frequency. Remember she was having seizures?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what it happens because the radio frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to happen to all of us if we don't take care of that situation. I mean, I think the people out there in Canada, they're smarter than we are here. I mean,
well, I just think that what you have is you have all these reports in Europe and elsewhere, and they're saying we're going to be better careful about how we use 5G. And, in some places in Europe, did you know that it's against the law to run a Wi-Fi router anywhere near a daycare or a nursery? They say that, you cannot run, you can't run a Wi-Fi hub anywhere near a nursery or anywhere near these places because they don't want the children to be exposed to this these radio waves. And so they know that they don't want any of that near them. And here in America, we have it everywhere. We have smog everywhere. The kids are exposed to it, and that could even be the reason why they're into these games and they're into doing this is because they're used to having that around them. Sometimes I feel fatigued in the day if I'm doing too much around my computer, but they don't feel fatigued at all. They're used to it.
Do you think, Clyde, that the 5G have to do with the quantum computer they are developing nowadays?
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what it's for. I mean, as I said, 5G is not for you. It's for the machines. It's for the efficiency of the machines. And so these new computers, these quantum computers, the big major computers they want to use them, and they want to have that 5G for smart cities and to use these smarter computers in order to create things they wouldn't normally create. This is going to open the door for machines to create machines to actually get smarter than us. It's going to pave the way for the singularity.
Yeah, so that gave me to another question. So if it's like that, do you think technology will obey, the robotics laws of Isaac Asimov? Remember the five laws?
The robot laws that were written by Isaac Asimov. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't think they will obey that.
Well, I don't even think, they've been having gatherings in Europe about robots and how they're going to handle robots. And, they don't talk about the laws of Asimov, but that would be a good start,
Yeah, because could you imagine CIA, NSA with that kind of technology and, using robots to make interrogations and all that,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the laws of robotics, they're just right now they're science fiction, right? And I'm sure they could apply if they wanted to, but just to review, let's just talk about the robot laws. A robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first and second laws. And then, of course, there's the zero law, which is a robot may not injure humanity or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm.
Exactly. But who could guarantee that they would not disobey those laws?
There's no guarantee. I mean? There's no guarantee. That's the whole point, is that we got to be able to, and that's one of the reasons why if you look at how God made us, he gave us limitations, and that's why we die. Because I have a feeling if we lasted too long and we were too healthy into that time, we would gain so much knowledge that we would become out of control. And I think that's one of the reasons why God made us, we have a time where we deactivate.
Yeah, good point. Well said, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, Clyde, I wish you the best, and I hope everything goes well next year for you and Janine.
Thank you so much, Carlos. And I'm hoping it will, too. I think next year is going to be a great year. And we have so many people that support this program, so many people that are with us. And just a reminder that, the Ground Zero store, Ron had put together, we got places all over the internet where there's merchandise, but the Ground Zero store that Ron had put together, groundzerostore.org, now has exclusively different colored shirts, tees, hoodies, all kinds of computer cases, phone cases, all kinds of cool things available at the Ground Zero store. That's groundzerostore.org. And we're going to add more things to it as well as time goes on. But the Ground Zero store now, groundzerostore.org. If you want to pick up on some of the best merchandise out there, especially with Matt Haley's wonderful Ground Zero logo that he provided for us, and it's been a staple for us for a long period of time. I have a piece of history there with that Ground Zero logo because it was certainly an amazing donation to the show by Matt Haley, of course, the artist that brings us Superman, Superman Returns, G.I. Spy, Wonder Woman, a lot of titles. He also worked with Stan Lee on So You Want to Be a Superhero. So he certainly contributed a great deal of talent to these T-shirts. And they're available for the Ground Zero listener. All you got to do is just go to groundzerostore.org. That's groundzerostore.org and pick them up. And when you go there, there's actually places when you go there that can reduce the price if you get them in within a certain time. So you can buy up a lot of merchandise for less money. And you can have it available for the Ground Zero fan in your life that's looking for a good Christmas present. Also, my books are available now at Amazon.com. Get your volumes now for Christmas. It's Amazon.com. Just type in Clyde Lewis, and then you'll be able to see all my books that are available. The one that's selling really well now is the Transhumanist book. I'm still getting a lot of great sales and reviews for the geoengineering book that was released just earlier this year. So, thank you so much for your support, and make the holidays a little happier for a Ground Zero listener. Pick up on the books and go to the Ground Zero store at groundzerostore.org. You'd be glad you did. It's going to be awesome to have one of those things under the tree this year. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Tonight on Ground Zero, talking about 5G and what is coming. Of course, rolling it out at the end of the year. Everybody's making their pitch, but a few people in Canada, a few people in Europe are now wising up to this, saying, we don't want this, and we will sue to keep it out of our area. It's that bad, they say. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Hey, it's Clyde Lewis for Fast Start Diet. You know it works, and it's now your turn to try it. Available on Amazon.com or go to FastStartDiet.com. Use promo code Clyde and get $10 off your first box. You'll also get the #1 rated Lipo3 Appetite Suppressant Spray. It's free. Whatever your weight loss goals, begin with FastStartDiet.com. Use promo code Clyde. That's promo code Clyde.
This is Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Let's go to Steve in Idaho. Hi, Steve. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi. So I wanted to make a comment about the birds that were dying because of the 5G tests.
Uh-huh.
So there was an experiment that was done on Geek.com. Well, it was featured on Geek.com. I don't know who it was actually done by, where they use electromagnetic radiation in order to actually melt metal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's known that a lot of different species of migratory birds have magnetite in their beaks, in their heads, things along those lines. it's very possible that we're seeing the same phenomenon in these birds where their brains are literally melting, which would explain why they're dunking their heads underwater and drowning themselves.
Right, and that's the thing is that they were doing it trying to avoid the microwaves, and it was driving them crazy. Some of them flew away. Of course, they were able to fly away, but the other ones, some of them just wouldn't eat. They wouldn't do anything. They just sat there, and then they just finally decided they were going to keep ducking their heads under the water, and they just did it until they died, until they drowned.
Precisely.
You know, some people don't believe that. They're saying, "Oh, this didn't happen," and I'm saying, well, the birds, the pictures of the birds were in every Dutch newspaper I could find, and in fact, I got the information. I had to translate it using Babbel. So, I mean, you're not going to get that in the mainstream here in the United States. You're going to get it out of course, newspapers in other countries that talk about this stuff. And that's the thing. I think people tend to think that if it's not reported here, it's not news. It's not true. I mean, we're so America-centric, but we forget the entire world has to say, we want this. And their challenge is to get all these billions of connections in by 2030. And they're going to do everything in their power to do it. They're so, headstrong in having this done. They don't care if you don't want it. They're going to push it anyways. Like with the FCC situation, their credentials and their critique and their criteria. They were saying, listen, we're not going to wait around. All you small communities that are debating on whether or not you want this, you're going to have that whether you like it or not. And if you don't, we will fine you. They're going to fine people if they don't do it. I think it's insane. I mean, what if you want to be a place that's free of this type of pollution? But you can't. That's the problem. Are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm still here. I didn't know if you're waiting for my comment or not. I apologize.
No, I was just waiting. Thinking you had something more to say. But if you don't, that's fine. I'll just let you go. Are you okay?
All right, sounds good. Have a great night.
All right, you too. Take care. Let's go now to Lauren in California. Hi, Lauren. You're on Ground Zero.
Yeah, hi. First-time caller. I am a TI. I am chipped. If this call gets dropped, you'll know that was done by them. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, great. And I've been chipped. I've been doing this for 4 years. They've been using microwave weapons technology, which I imagine is pretty similar to what you're discussing right now, on me. It's become a 24/7 nightmare.
Why were you chipped?
Very good question. I don't know. Probably because I live close to a military installation, and I was selected, I believe, at random. But I've been doing this in Southern California now for like I said, 4 years.
Did they put the chip in against your will, or did you voluntarily allow them to put it in?
No, they did it without my knowledge. Yeah. If I told you the story, it's almost unbelievable to even tell it. But a lot of the things that I'm dealing with are science fiction-like.
Right.
Star Wars-like. I've talked to a lot of different engineers. I've checked online, Dr. Eric Karlstrom, Karlstrom,
right.
Electronic torture. There's a lot of good stuff about it. His conclusion is probably similar to what mine is, which is Homeland Security, NSA. I wanted to get into the 5G thing as well. I went to dinner with some good friends of mine, both engineers. One of them who's doing the groundwork of installing the lines for 5G. And he said those lines are so massively overpowered, he can't figure out why. And he said he thought about it quite a bit, and he'd come to a conclusion. And my other engineer friend said, well, it's going to expand, and they're going to want to add more users. And he said, no, I don't think that's what it is. And he goes, well, why do you think it is? And he goes, because of him. He goes, they want to do it to all of us. They want to microwave all of us. It's an electronic torture. It keeps you encapsulated. You're doing it their way. Because once they do it to you all the time, you have no choices. Your choices are all taken away. Civil liberties are stomped on. If I told you the story of my last 4 years of going from a normal person living a normal life, going to church and riding my motorcycle, to now, there's no resemblance. I'm an animal. I'm being hunted by these sick people in Southern California. And everywhere I go, they go. I've moved 6 times, Clyde.
So,
and I'm not the only.
I would ask myself, why me? Why am I so important to them? You just are you just some guinea pig that decided to observe, or do you have some information they need, or why?
I know too much now. I know the game. I know what they're playing. For example, and I'm already hunted, so it doesn't matter. I can tell you this. I was at the top of Sage Park in Southern California where the fire started. I was one of 2 people there when that actually took place. That, in fact, where that fire started is a Department of Energy property. It used to be a old military base where they used to test fire rockets, which had a nuclear meltdown as well.
Yes, we talked about that last night. I don't know if you heard the show, but we did, yeah.
I didn't, I'm sorry. But the only person that I saw cover it was the ABC local channel put a reporter in front of the main military-style check-in gate at Boeing, supposedly Boeing, who said they leased the property there.
Well, yeah, Boeing owns it now, but NASA has an interest, Rocketdyne has an interest.
Correct.
All these companies have a... Yeah, we talked about this last night. That's amazing that you were there when it happened. Did it happen in the substation, or was there some sort of a direct energy weapon involved?
Very good question. I couldn't tell you. I could tell you it was down in the actual base where the buildings are at. I can also tell you that one of my other engineer friends was there and saw that, in fact, that it's a laser testing facility for the government.
Yeah, it is.
That's where we
and now it's burning, sending radioactive ash into the air, and people are inhaling it. There was a spike.
Correct.
There was a spike in radiation when it happened. 10 hours after the first few burns took place in the area, they saw a spike in radiation. It's an amazing story that no one's going to hear because too many people in the Defense Department are going to keep this quiet, not putting on the mainstream news. But we had it on the show last night. I suggest you go to SoundCloud.com/Ground Zero Media and listen to the show last night. It was very compelling.
Anyway, my point is, I'm just a guinea pig. I'm the tip of the iceberg for what's to follow, I believe.
Okay. Well, Lauren, a lot of stuff you say checks out, and I wish you luck. I'm sorry this is happening to you. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.
FM News 101 KXL.
I have a request tonight. Storm the studio. When you hear this is that is the introduction.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." The loudspeaker spoke up and said, "Wait, Jimmy." Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Give up. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy. Wait, Jimmy.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. So 5G has the potential to not only harm us, the ecosystem is also being threatened. I mean, 20 years of investigating and summarized low-level non-ionizing microwave radiation, we know that it has an effect on bird and bee health. The situation in The Hague, of course, we just talked about that at the beginning of the show, talking about the bee and the colony collapse that has been happening. I mean, look, 5G drives birds from their nests. It causes plume deterioration, locomotion problems, reduced survivorship, and death. And bee population suffers from reduced egg-laying capabilities of the queens, smaller colony sizes, they're not making honey, and more evidence of an ecosystem disruption comes from a study which indicates that 593 of the 919 research studies suggest that radio frequency, this RFR, adversely affects plants, animals, and humans. So it bears repeating again, and we need to talk about this and openly talk about this. 5G is bad news for all living creatures in planet and everything that we share here on this planet. And I don't care what games are going to be played. I don't care how efficient machines are going to be. We're fine. We do not need a smart city, and we do not need to connect into a beast system to destroy our environment. And despite being fully aware of all these unsettling results, all of these threats and concerns, we have a corporate propaganda mission agenda right now that is pushing and being gung-ho about 5G. Back in 2016, the Mobile Now Act was passed, and many U.S. states have since gone ahead with 5G plans. The telecom industry's biggest players have basically co-opted government powers to enforce their 5G agenda, with companies like AT&T, Qualcomm having begun live testing. And despite research showing serious threats to humans and the planet, the FCC chairman announced intentions to open low, mid, and high-frequency spectrums without even mentioning a single word about it, the dangers, and anything to the media. We are reporting this to you, and we're reporting it to you because we want people to start having dialogue about it. They're going to sell this. They're going to sell this to us as a faster browsing speed plan, but you won't even notice. I mean, that's the thing. 5G will happen. You won't even notice the difference. That's what really sucks, is they're lying to you. All right? 4G's fine. It's working just fine. Thank you very much. 5G is not going to make that big a difference. I mean, they're going to call anyone who protests against 5G a Luddite or a technophobe. But, you know, I don't understand why people are so willing to embrace this. They probably don't even know what they're getting. They're getting it sold to them and think, oh, this is better. Faster is better. You know, faster browsing speed. No one's going to notice. And with all the serious risks it carries and it brings, I mean, all of these spurious benefits, yay. I mean, why not heed the lessons learned from killer products like asbestos, tobacco? What about Roundup? Okay? What about all the time we were telling you that Roundup would cause cancer? And then they have this guy they interview, they say, would you like to drink a cup to make it? The guy says, well, you can drink a whole cup of it and it won't hurt you. Here, drink a cup of it. Oh, I'm not stupid. Then why the hell just say it, moron? See, there's a tiny percentage of people that will gain an awful lot of money. And that is one of the reasons why, you know, they're pushing this. And because companies and governments will be given unprecedented amounts of power over civilians to use it. And that's the point. Turning your city into a smart city means that Big Brother is going to be on your back 24/7. You know, it just makes me angry. It makes me angry that here I am talking about this, and eventually we will see. There is some hope. There is some hope, though. The state of Hawaii has stopped 5G. The state of Hawaii also has stopped smart meters by collectively threatening to charge every person who installed a meter with liability for any health problems residents may suffer. Moreover, 180 scientists have started a petition to warn of 5G potential health effects, and maybe these actions will afford more time for additional studies and data collection. And just as importantly, maybe they'll cause other politicians and figureheads to reflect on what they've been pushing for. In the meantime, I think people need to understand what they can do to avoid these problems. First of all, they need to understand electromagnetic frequencies. They need to understand how they behave. We need to protect ourselves, and we need to find ways to protect ourselves to shield and mark and protect our children and families from the hot spots. We need to limit our exposure. We need to find ways to limit our exposure to this. We maybe need to turn off routers and things of that nature. Whenever possible, limit your exposure or use of a cell phone. Refuse to use 5G phones and devices. I mean, full stop. You can't say, oh, I'll use this, no problem. Discourage people you know from using 5G phones or 5G apparatus. Tell them, hey, you know what? I don't want to. It's like smoking. If a person went up to you and started blowing smoke in your face, would you let them? No, you'd say, please, it's harming my body. If you say, is that a 5G phone? Then I'm not going to use it. And I don't want you to use it either. You can say, I don't want to buy smart appliances because I don't want my appliances talking to one another. Smart heaters, smart appliances, smart meters. I mean, don't get a smart meter. I mean, they put out 5G. It's radiation right in your home, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I'm not asking you to be a Luddite, and yeah, I mean, it just sounds like it's alarming, but, spread the word. I mean, even if the policy drivers and governments aren't doing their due diligence, at least you can do something. At least you can say that you're participating in something that's going to change lives. And I think we need to say, no, you don't have to serve it to us. We don't have to eat what we're being served. Let's go to Jason in Oregon. Hi, Jason. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Mr. Clyde. I love your show.
Thank you.
My point is I'm having trouble already with, the computers and things, I try to, I worked this gas station a few years back, it didn't quite work out, but then I reapplied a couple of years later and they're like, oh, no. And it's happened several times, so they can cut your work off. And that's with the technology we have now. Imagine 5G.
Okay, how are they cutting your work off? How does 4G cutting your work off?
It's all in their systems. Well, not the 4G itself.
Well, your record is in the systems, right? Yeah. Well, if you're only as good as your last gig. So if you did badly at a last job, and they see that, no, you're not going to get another job unless you can find somebody who'll look beyond that, and you can. That's where you have to basically sell yourself. Say, yeah, it was a bad time for me at that time, but you know what? I've improved, I've grown, and I think I can do a better job here.
Yes, exactly. But 5G is going to be a little different. You're going to be like on the Jetsons, they're going to drag you out of bed. The robot's going to give you a bath and throw you on the escalator.
Yeah, throw you on the escalator, you're ready for work. No, I'm just serious. I mean, look, you're not going to be able to erase records. I find it, one of the things that I have to agree with, though, Jason, is I remember when it was just before I got cancer. I had lost my job as a local traffic reporter. I was a traffic reporter doing traffic reporting. I did Ground Zero on the weekends, but Ground Zero on the weekends was not enough to supplement my income. I had to get a real job, a full-time job, a 9-to-5 job. Mm-hmm. And so I went in, and one of the things that really bothered me was that most jobs today, when you go in to look for a job, they say, can you please email us your resume? And every time I'd go to a place and they'd say, email us your resume, and we'll call you if we think you're qualified. Well, one day I got smart and I said, hey, can I talk to the manager? And she says, well, why is that? I says, because I'm looking for a job. Oh, go ahead and leave your resume with a computer. I says, oh, but I want to talk to the manager about something else. I went and I sat down with the manager and I said, you know what? I said, I don't believe that if I was to send you my resume in an email, you'd read it. I'm here to tell you that I want the job and that I want to meet you face to face. I want to show you that I'll be able to be capable. I think it's best that we learn from each other now. I mean, I may be better in person than I am on paper, but I want a job. And that's how I got my job. I went directly to the manager, and I didn't just file on the internet because that's the thing, is that it's just so impersonal anymore.
That's how I've been doing it. I just go up to somebody like a payer and, hey, man, I know how to do this. I know how to do that. Otherwise, I'm just at a loss,
Yeah, I mean, don't let the computer email sell you. You're not going to get a job. That's how I see it. I mean, computers make everything so impersonal anymore. And it's like the best way to get to know someone is to get them up there face to face and talk to them, confront them, or at least get to know them. Shake their hand, look in their eyes. That's something you have to do. I mean, that sounds so old-fashioned now, but no, that's what you have to do to try and get a lot of things going on,
Well, I mean, even Facebook, if you get a bad rap on your Facebook, I think Facebook should have a breathalyzer on it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's true. I mean, you never know. You look at Facebook and you're wondering, why are all these people on Facebook trolling? I mean, don't they have anything better to do? It's very depressing when you see trolling going on Facebook. You see all the way people treat each other and all the political banter. It's just really, it's like, do these people really think that what they're contributing is something clever? No, most of the time they don't. There are people, though, that do. I mean, I know on my Facebook, I get a lot of people who have a lot of great things to say and a lot of great things that they point out to me, and I follow them. Sometimes, though, I look at Facebook and I just shake my head. I look at my newsfeed, I shake my head to see what people say, and it's mostly some political cut or whatever, and it just doesn't make any sense. I just don't like it. But, Jason, I appreciate the call. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
XL.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and you are listening to Ground Zero. We're opening a few lines tonight. If you want to call in, if you had a hard time calling in, we have a few lines open now at 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Now you know how full spectrum dominance will be implemented against you. Weak privacy laws in the United States are one reason consumers are vulnerable when tech companies start gathering new types of data about them. And there is nothing in the law that protects data collected about a person's mood or accent, or whether or not they decide to buy one thing or another, or check out a library book, these are the things that we were worried about back during 9/11. After the 9/11 attacks, we were told that the books you check out and the things you buy will be monitored because they want to, pretty much put flags on those that they think are terrorists. But see, back then, I said it, and I'll say it again. There are more threats now to your cognitive liberty. And what I mean by this is that, there are many things you have in your life that can be searched or seized or, unlawful search and seizure. But one of the things they can't get into is your head. Not yet. And so tech companies are learning quickly, and they want so badly to get into your head, and they want to be able to use that information against you. They want to be able to open up your mind and use every thought you have against you, even some of the bad ones that creep in every once in a while and dance on the stage that's there in your mind's eye. Everybody at one time or another has had bad thoughts about someone or something, or said something that they would regret later. And so this is the way tech companies can punish you for a hate crime that you might commit, or a terrorist attack that you're responsible for or might commit because of association. I mean, guilt with association. Imagine if you're on the internet and you're talking with somebody, you have a conversation with somebody in the United Arab Emirates, and he turns out to be a terrorist. You're guilty by association. The Electronic Communications Privacy Act, or the ECPA, first passed in 1986, and it was a major step forward in privacy protection at the time. But now, it's been more than 30 years later, it has yet to catch up with the pace of technological innovation. And generally under the ECPA, government agencies need a subpoena, a court order, or a search warrant to compel companies to disclose protected user information. Unlike court orders and search warrants, subpoenas don't necessarily require judicial review. Well, all of this will take a whole lot of power, and it will come with the arrival of 5G. Now, either we will have to fight against it, or we can envy the birds that died unexpectedly in that experiment where big propaganda budgets are being used now to cover it up. And like I said before, you can go all over the internet and look up the story about the birds that died in The Hague. You have various stories. You'll have various people trying to debunk it, saying, well, there's only a little circumstantial evidence there to say that those birds died. And there's different translations of the story, and that's why people are misunderstanding it. You'll get that. But the truth is that those birds did die. And the evidence shows that they were working on a 5G project at the train stations. They were unloading a mast. It was a 5G mast, and they were trying to figure out how they could use it, and they wanted to see the effects of using it around the train station. Well, they found out. You can go and you do the research on what's going on in Toronto right now. It's an amazing story. And you just take a look at how Toronto is no longer in the business of wanting a 5G rollout in their area, because they were saying that it doesn't seem that the practices of the business, they don't seem on the up and up. And I would agree, they're not on the up and up. I mean, you can look all over Europe, you can look all over Sweden, you can look all over Italy. I mean, yeah, they're proposing to wheel out these chips. They're going to start wheeling out these chips at the end of the year, saying, hey, it'd be cool to get a chip. Companies all over the place. I mean, like I said, 3 Square Market, they began implanting microchips in the employees. And it's funny, all they had to say is, hey, we're putting chips in employees, and the employees just were ecstatic and they jumped at the opportunity. I find that odd when whenever I bring this stuff up, it always goes to, well, this is the mark of the beast, Clyde. Why would people do that? They do it because they'd be punished if they didn't. And just like with 5G, we're going to be punished if we don't comply and if we don't allow it to happen. And they're going to find communities and they're going to take over local governments. And we're not going to know what hit us because no one in the mainstream has the decency nor the cojones to report this. So if you don't believe me, I suggest you do the research. You can listen back to my program on SoundCloud.com, SoundCloud.com/Ground Zero Media. Go back and listen to the program. It'll be on an hour after air. And you can listen back and you can do all the research available for it. And you can use it and you can see that what I'm talking about is not conspiracy theory, that it's actually happening. And you have a media that's ignoring it because they would rather be involved with Russian meddling and Russian investigations and trying to implicate the president in a lot of things. And this takes precedent over the idea of our health and well-being with 5G being rolled out soon. And we will soon feel the problems with it. You know, it's amazing how this is not being reported. So, get involved with the dialogue tonight. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
With Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Those who think getting a car phone is not for them, whatever the reason, haven't kept up with the booming industry of cellular radio telephone. Cellular radio telephone. This revolution in communications could make it possible for more and more people to have a phone in their car, or even one that travels with you. Eventually, seeing people using cellular phones may seem as commonplace as someone checking time on an electronic watch, figuring on an electronic calculator, or programming on an electronic computer.
A lot of people worry that their cell phone will give them cancer, which isn't all that surprising. I mean, you're holding a device that emits radiation right next to your brain. Terrible idea.
The World Health Organization now says there's a possibility, a potential risk. Radiation from cell phones could cause cancer.
That number is expected to grow considerably within the next few years during the cellular revolution.
So today, I'm going to speak to why you can no longer assume that our wireless technology is safe.
And so I would like just a very simple explanation why concentrating all this energy is not going to further increase the health risk.
We assume that these devices that we're going to put out are safe for us. If you ask any major cell phone manufacturer, they'll tell you it's pretty odd.
Something that's become so closely woven into our lives. Imagine what we do with that.
Notice again, the waves go into your brain. They have to. That's how the device works.
As the experts have been arguing over. Some say they're going to be safe. Others claim they fry your brain.
Imagine eliminating each degree in under a second, and then let your imagination run wild. 5G will be the foundation for virtual reality, autonomous driving, the Internet of Things, and stuff we can't even yet imagine. But what exactly is a 5G network? We're sorry, you have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. The number's to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. 5G, bro. 888-673-3700. We go down to Travis in Idaho. Hi, Travis. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. First-time caller, just to let you know.
Thank you.
I had some real concerns about the 5G network because of the fact of the amount of radiation that's going to be coming out of those, just like your microwave.
Yeah, it is. It's a slow cook is what it is.
Yeah, and linking all of these devices to one access point, which is you, is a very dangerous thing because of the fact it's able to actually monitor your every movement, everything that you do, everything you say, your emotions, no matter what it is. That's going to be very, very detrimental on our lives. People don't realize how I guess you could say how scary that can be unless you're actually under the microscope. Let's say that you're in prison. You're being watched. You're being scrutinized for every move you do from the guards that watch you. Well, what's the difference?
You're
That's
right.
my question, for these people to understand that 5G is something that is very dangerous. And it's almost like Jurassic Park.
It's true. It is like Jurassic Park because we like to say, well, what are the possibilities? It's not going to hurt anything, and then all of a sudden something goes awry, and we're like going, oh, we should have thought of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And another thing is, what happens if hackers get involved?
I wouldn't want to even go there. That's horrible. Think about it. Yeah. Yeah. They call it the real hacktivists.
About technology that's new to people, and it's like, do they have any idea what it's capable of doing, especially if they're bringing in, like you were talking about, quantum computing, which is even worse.
Right.
They're basically building a machine within a machine, and it's going to be able to actually determine what we're going to do or what we say next.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you heard what Jordy Rose said about the Kindred computers. He said, we're going to have the power to bring things through. The power is so great with 5G, we can bring things through that we never imagined before. That's how powerful 5G is, being able to bring things through wormholes. Come on, that's something that it sounds outrageous. Maybe he was just saying it for effect, but I don't think so. After hearing what Anthony Patch has to say about CERN and what's going on with that, I just don't think so.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, especially when you're manipulating current things that are around us. Especially with the radiation and these particles. People don't understand that radio waves is radiation. Period. It's total radiation, and we're able to see a certain spectrum of that radiation because our bodies are designed to be able to see that, but to be exposed to something that's beyond what we can see as far as the spectrum is a danger to us. That's why we're not able to see it.
Did you know that cancer now is not a matter of if, but when? It used to be if you get cancer. Now it's when you get cancer. More and more people get cancer than they ever used to. And it makes you wonder why we're getting it, right? It makes you wonder why everybody who's exposed gets it and why it's mutating. And it's mutating because we're being exposed to this type of stuff.
Yeah, and I do believe that's why I have celiac disease. Is part of this new technology that's come in, and it's been coming up and coming up and coming up. It has damaged my DNA to the point where I can't consume wheat.
Well, that would explain a lot of maladies that are happening out there. Things that are happening to bodies, they're changing. DNA is changing. The way we eat changes. That's why you can't have certain foods. That's why allergies, more and more people are getting allergies they never had before. Usually allergies are what children get and they grow out of. Now adults are getting them and they're stuck with them for the rest of their lives. That's the thing that's most discouraging is what is triggering allergies late in life? What is triggering a lot of weather anomalies? All of this is due to the microwave experiments they've been conducting, all of the direct energy weapons, and also the active denial weapons they use on people. These are the things that change people, and they change them from the inside out. And this is why you don't see it on the surface. It's like saying, there's this horrible, horrible radiation around you, and you don't even know it because you don't see it. But then eventually you see your life deteriorating, you realize you have been exposed to it.
That is exactly true because of the fact that we are exposed to electromagnetic currents that people don't understand, especially when they have a computer on in their house.
Right.
That thing's throwing out all kinds of electromagnetic current.
Right.
And then, of course, now you have LED TVs or these LCD TVs you're watching. They actually emit a lot of electromagnetic current. So it's not necessarily a X-ray like the old tube types used to emit, but they're definitely producing, some of these levels that people don't see or basically understand, because today's technologies they're huge. And with the frequencies they're thinking about using for 5G, that is very dangerous.
It is dangerous, and we're seeing the effects happen. I appreciate the call. Speaking of effects happening, I have some very sad news. I'm going to play this for you. This comes from KGW. News Channel 8. Listen to this report. It makes it even more chilling since it's close to home.
Look around this open field in Hillsborough and you'll see dead birds on the ground. We found about 20 European starlings and red-winged blackbirds in one corner off West Union Road. These pictures may be even tougher for you to see. A bald eagle and red-tailed hawk also found dead in the same field earlier this week. The man who spotted them works nearby. He saw the eagle first and called wildlife officials. The birds, large and small, are being tested now to see what killed them.
To find, a large group of dead birds and multi-species like this is certainly something that piques our concern.
The Audubon Society's Bob Salinger is not connected to the case, but he did share his general concerns about a bird kill like this.
But the things we do think about are poisons and toxins in these kinds of situations. That can be an intentional poisoning situation. That can be something that they got into that was unintentional.
Occasionally, power lines or transformers can be a problem. A PGE wildlife biologist was out checking today. He told us the system is bird safe with covers and insulated connector lines. It seems the more likely possibility is the small birds ate something toxic and the larger birds fed on them. Yeah, now both bald eagles and red-tailed hawks are protected species, so if this was an intentional bird kill, whoever did it could face some really hefty fines.
That's the point. There's a number of birds dying. Who'd want to kill a bald eagle? It's very, very tragic. This happened in Hillsborough. This was filed tonight. A mysterious mass bird death in Hillsborough. Birds died at once, and for there to be several species involved is very rare. And this is what I've been talking about. They said that they look into the power lines, whether or not they were exposed to electromagnetic radiation or some sort of electromagnetic dispersal from these areas that could have, smart installations on the light poles. These are the things that we need to pay attention to. And I didn't realize until now that this was reported today, Hillsborough, Oregon, dead birds in a field, just like what happened in The Hague. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. It just, when it hits close to home like this, it certainly is something that that makes you wonder just what is happening. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
More with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
Mac in Oregon. Hi, Mac. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. Good evening. I just wondered, you got your book about the weather and weather modification. Have you ever thought, and I know it's a little off topic with 5G, but 5G is more radio waves, more power. You ever thought that maybe big places like LA, with all the radio waves from all the cell phones, all the cell phone towers, and all of that are contributing to what I like to call the manipulation of weather? I always thought that maybe, there was ever a massive blackout in LA and down in that area, it might actually rain down there.
It's an interesting thought. And that's another thing is another thing that will not bring into the climate change argument is geomagnetic or magnetic manipulation using microwaves with the weather. And that's what HAARP does. Okay.
I know I've called you about HAARP before.
Yeah.
And I want to compare LA's cell
You're using your brain, Mac. Better stop it. Just stop using your brain. Stop thinking. You're amazing.
Well, I hope you can stop it, man. We're
amazing, Mac.
I'm always on this stuff.
You're amazing. I never would have thought about it. Think about the accumulation, because it does accumulate. It really does, Mac. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, it seems like every major city, and it seems like all those major cities seem to have more mental issues. It's like the brains of people that live in those major metropolitan places more people are affected by, you have more problems.
I would say that I bet you if you were to do a study, and that'd be some really good work if you did that, you could do a study. I bet you'd find exactly what you're talking about, that all of these anomalies happen a lot more in the major cities because of exposure to microwaves. It's true. Let's go to Nathan in Canada. Hi, Nathan. You're on Ground Zero.
Thanks very much. Millie Weaver from that broadcaster in Texas pointed out a long time ago, and it was news to me, was that women, the children, female body is born with all their eggs. And if you are a pregnant woman with a laptop propped up on your pregnant belly, you are affecting your in utero eggs. That's to the best of my knowledge.
Oh, it does damage. I mean, look, exposure to anything that deals with these waves are bad. I had a friend of mine, and this is the thing, it may be the reason why I got cancer too. You know, of course, I was a downwinder and I was more susceptible to it. But a friend of mine worked at a radio station that I worked at. We both worked at the same radio station. We had a radio transmitter behind us when we did our broadcasts, okay? He ended up with testicular cancer. I ended up with kidney cancer. Now, figure that one out. Now, either being exposed to that radio frequency gave us cancer, because we both were cancer victims after we did the morning show at that location. It was a remote location, a place called Ogden, Utah, and the transmitter was right behind us. We were being radiated every time. We didn't know this. We were being radiated every time we'd step in front of that transmitter and do our radio show. It was shielded, of course, but we think that we may have been exposed to a lot of that radio frequency, and that caused the cancer, because my back was to that transmitter, and he was there too, to the side and to the back as well. So, of course, his testicles were harmed and my kidneys were harmed. How's that for strange?
And just please, ladies, go and check out Millie Weaver's testimony about that.
Nathan, thank you. And thank you so much for calling tonight. Let's go to Vaughn in New York. Hi, Vaughn. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. First-time caller, and I got to say, it's really an honor to talk to you.
Thank you.
You are so important. I wanted to say that this technology, I mean, I'm a baby boomer, and I actually fool around and restore old antique TVs and stuff like that.
Man of my heart. That's awesome.
Yeah, I work on I listen on the radios.
I got an old Tombstone radio in my bedroom. It's awesome.
Oh, what brand?
I think it's a Philco.
Oh, no problem. If you ever need work, or you're on the island here, I'll take care of it.
I would love it. I'd love to talk sometime about radio with you. It'd be great. I love radios and old TVs. But go ahead.
Yeah, I have hundreds of them all around here.
Cool.
You know, my generation, I don't understand how Twilight Zone hasn't taught them anything. I mean, you know, it's funny. You watch it year after, year and stuff. And, I mean, me personally, too, and most of us, were warned. I think Rod Serling did more for the world than most ministers or anybody else.
Well, see, Vaughn, you are about the same age as I am, I'm sure. We were raised on that stuff, but we were raised on parables and what they call precautionary tales. There are no parables and precautionary tales being produced today. It's all about, let's watch a fire department. Let's watch a police department. Let's watch a hospital. Hey, let's watch a comedian that can actually spew out liberal views and have everybody laugh about it. Let's push a political agenda. There are no parables being taught. Rod Serling was the ultimate storyteller. And, of course, when they did Outer Limits, that was ultimate storytelling as well. Night Gallery, old radio shows, Orson Welles. You and I both have an interest in that. And that is why I think a lot of us and a lot of people who listen had that in their lives, and they relish the fact that we were being told parables and precautionary tales to protect us from a future that may be out of control. We don't have enough of them anymore. Even in movies, they no longer give us precautionary tales. They tell us, this is inevitable, tough luck. That's what we get from all the movies anymore.
Yeah, it's so true. And in one of the episodes of Twilight Zone, actually a flat TV comes down.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the flat TVs, which I don't use, not only put out radiation, but, there's ultraviolet light. I don't understand why people don't study it. I take them apart, and there's a big pan full of tons of ultraviolet light. Now, from what I knew from common sense, you're not supposed to stare at ultraviolet light.
No. But remember the Audion tubes, Vaughn. Remember that
Sure.
you turn off an old TV, and what did you do? You ran your hand in front of the screen. It was all the static electricity.
Yeah, there's high voltage. They're wonderful. I have a 1965 Hitachi on right now.
You're kidding. You're kidding.
Yeah, I use them constantly.
We used to have an old Philco television, black and white. It had the magnets that pulled the screen apart, and it actually put in a blurry picture, kind of a brightish blurry picture, but it had simulated walnut on the sides.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was the other one that had the TV that was a box, and then it had the stand on it, and then the screen was just there. The tube was just there, and it was being bolted together, and it was really interesting looking old TV.
Oh, definitely. I work on all of them and have them all over the...
You're amazing, Vaughn. Thank you for calling the program.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Take care. 888. Oh, we're done, aren't we? Gosh, it's gone by so fast. We are done. Thank you so much for making the show amazing. Just want to tell you all that tomorrow we may be doing a show later tomorrow night. And the reason why is because there's going to be another organized protest in Portland. So I am on call, and I will be in the office tomorrow. We don't know if we're going to be doing a show, but keep your ears to the radio here at KXL. We may be on later that night to give give another show about what's going on in this country, and everybody on staff is going to be available to talk about this tomorrow. So stay tuned to KXL for more information about that tomorrow. Keep yourself safe, and we'll see you later. Take care.